morning again. Thank you all. I know have more people outside that are just finishing. So if you don't mind, if you can kind of scoot into the middle so that folks as they arrive don't have to crawl over you, because you know that's not pleasant. But welcome everybody. Welcome to Fall 2022 and our All College Day. It is my pleasure. I'm Sunny Cook and I serve as president at MiraCosta College. And it's my pleasure to introduce to you the vice president of our Board of Trustees, Frank Mershot. And if we can get the other PowerPoint slides to flip on, that would be terrific. So Frank Mershot.
Well, good morning and welcome. You know, it's exciting to be here after 2 long years of doing it all on Zoom. I know today I thought about how long I'd been on the board, and I said I've been on the board 5 years. It's actually been 7 years. I just subtracted the COVID years from it. So hopefully you're not doing the same thing, but this day is always exciting for me. The very first time I attended, there's such a positive energy out here of I can do it, and by the time we finish today, it'll be we can do it. So welcome to the folks that have been here before, and welcome to the new hires at MiraCosta. We're glad you're here with us, and we hope that you will experience a long and productive career in the service to our community. Before we begin our program, we'd like to acknowledge the original caretakers of the land on which MiraCosta College is built. The Liseño people are composed of 7 bands: the La Jolla, Pala, Palma, Pachanga, Rincon, San Luis Rey, and Saboba. We pay our respects to the Liseño past, present, and future, and are grateful to have the opportunity to be part of this community and to honor their history, culture, and spirit. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, welcome to Fall 2022. I'm Frank Mershot, as Dr. Cook just said, and proudly serve as the Vice President of the MiraCosta College Board of Trustees. And let me introduce the rest of the board: President Ana Pedrosa, members Jackie Simon, George McNeil, Dr. Bill Fisher, Rick Cassar, and our newest member, Ray Clendenning. Unfortunately, Ray couldn't be with us today. It looks like I just changed the slides. Okay. I'll have to ask somebody else to do that, but I wanted to introduce Ray a little bit to you. Earlier this summer, Trustee Clendenning was unanimously appointed to the board for Area 6, the northernmost portion of MiraCosta College. Ray retired from a long and successful career in public education and is highly respected across Southern California. She spent decades as a teacher in Los Angeles and San Diego County areas before serving for 14 years as principal for several schools. Her last post was Director of All Student Services and Special Education Programs for Oceanside Unified School District. Let me go back there. Boom. Ray attended a community college and understands firsthand the tremendous value they play in transforming lives. Like many of our students, as a teenager, Ray did not have the money to go straight to a 4-year university, so her local community college provided a bridge to complete her degree and pursue her passion as an educator. While Ray is a member of our board, she is no stranger to MiraCosta or North County community. Before being appointed, she served as the president of the MiraCosta Foundation. She served at least a decade there. She was also an inaugural member of the Measure MM Independent Citizens Oversight Committee. She also was a founding member of North County Business and Professional Women's Organization and the North County African American Women's Association. She has also served on the board of Vista Community College, our board of Vista Community Clinic, the African American Advisory Board for California State San Marcos, Women's Resource Auxiliary Board, and the Oceanside MiraCosta Gear Up and Advisory Board. So as you can tell, Trustee Clendenning has been very busy and is going to be a tremendous asset in addition to the Board of Trustees. And that's why I wanted to share a little bit of her background with you. let's see. Oh, I also wanted to make mention of the fact that one person is seemingly missing or left out, which is the student trustee. Our current or our past student trustee stepped down, so the students will be electing a new trustee shortly. Every year the board sharpens its goals, and this year is no exception. And I won't read these goals to you, but I will point to several important things. Number one, and the first most important goal, is student success and equity. And the board sees these goals very holistically and is going to measure our progress against diversity, equity, and inclusion on a regular basis. And I think that's important because as a Board of Trustees, one of our major jobs is to provide resources. And we want to make sure that as the year goes on, we provide those resources in the most effective way possible for first-year success within all equity groups. Our second goal is to institutionalize futures planning. For those of you who've been with us on this journey for over 2 years now, it seems old and probably pretty ingrained. For those of you who haven't had the opportunity, get educated, find out more about it, and know that this is going to be part of our process moving forward. And our last goal is proactively reaching out to the community. After 2 years of the pandemic, it's time for us to make sure that we're in the community in every way we possibly can. And I think more than anything, it gives us the opportunity to find out what the community's needs are. And with that in mind, MiraCosta College has been selected as just one of a handful of community colleges to serve as an exemplar and model and mentor to other districts across the state. We were chosen because of our exceptional board and CEO relations and the college's great work in implementing guided pathways and equity efforts to increase student outcomes and close equity gaps. All of our trustees and Dr. Cook have been attending quarterly fellowship meetings with national leaders to build and support our work as an institution and as a state. We will all be attending a 2-day conference next week, and as a part of that fellowship, I want you to know that through our commitment of time, effort, and focus, the board is supportive of our college's efforts in these areas and is proud to serve as an exemplar for the state. Let me conclude by saying and expressing the board's deepest gratitude to all of you for your commitment to our students, for each other, and for our community. MiraCosta College employees strive to positively change the lives of so many, and we are extremely grateful for all of your services. For so many, MiraCosta has been their lifeline, and it is with your dedication in MiraCosta that MiraCosta has and will continue to play a vital role in the lives of many. Thank you, and once again, have a great semester.
Okay, so I'm going to just make one more announcement that we don't want anybody to have to feel like they're going to stand throughout this, so please, there's lots of seats in the front, as always in church. The seats are open in the front. Nobody wants to sit up front, but we welcome you. We want you to be comfortable, and people will stand up and let you by, so please make yourself comfortable if you're currently standing and want to be seated. So thank you, Frank, for the overview and your words of gratitude. I also want to start by thanking Dr. David Broad, who has served on the Board of Trustees and served as chair for a number of years. And he has had great influence and leadership over the Board of Trustees, over the college, and he's really helped me as a leader because this was the first role in which I served in reporting directly to a Board of Trustees elected by the public. And so he's been a big influence in my settling into MiraCosta College. So I wanted to thank him. He stepped down after graduation time. He knew that he wasn't going to run again, and so stepped down, and that gave us the opportunity to appoint a trustee, and you heard about Ray Clendenning, and we're so excited to be working with her, and that she gets to continue her support of this college and this community in a new way. We're very excited about that. And most recently, we just found that none of our trustees are being opposed for elected office. So we have 4 trustees that are up for election, and none of them are being opposed. And that's kind of a testament, because when things aren't going well and there's a lot of unrest, generally you see kind of a battle at that level for the seat of trustee. So, and you know what school boards and trustee meetings have turned into across our nation. So we're very glad that we have a collaborative and collegial style of leadership that starts at our board level, but certainly works all through our employee groups as well. So thanks. In the spirit of thanks, I want to thank you're going to see a number of people on the stage today. It's probably the largest team that we've had in presenting to you and engaging you in what's coming for this year. So we're very excited. They're scattered throughout the audience. But for every one of those people, there are 5 others that you won't see on the stage that really help us to make today run smoothly. So I'm not going to call out everybody's name, but I do want to thank particularly Jean Kashwanis in my office, Kristen Hike in the PIO office, all of information systems, Carrie Everts and the entire facilities crew, and the instructional associates in the arts that are making this day possible and really resolving any issues quickly. As you can see, Bobby running through the aisles getting to solve a problem. So thank you all very much for making today run smoothly. I have to say again, welcome to 2022. It's so lovely to see all of you in 3 dimensions. It's been a long few years, and we are delighted to be able to be together. I know that from faculty, I've heard about this week, some of the best meetings and department meetings and things have just been about you all being together again. I hope you got to see the new employees. We were streaming them as you were walking in. We've hired a number of new employees through this period. I remember when we first went online, we didn't know if it was possible to hire in a fully online Zoom capacity. But we've hired some tremendous faculty and tremendous staff. And I hope that you will make an effort to make sure that you seek them out and welcome them. Because we want to be a place where people feel included and welcomed and that they are part of our mission and vision. So, and as Frank said, we hope that you have a long career with us and that you feel productive and engaged and that you belong. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that because it's a little awkward. Some of us haven't seen each other in 3 years. Some of us have never seen each other. So I'd like to propose some strategies, and I'll do that in a minute. But what I'd like to do continuing in the spirit of thanks is to recognize Aaron Roberts. I don't know if he's here with us this morning. He is, and the whole PDP committee and Debbie Adler have put on a great program this week. Thank you, Aaron. Aaron took over in this spring, and he, working with his team and with Debbie, have really done a great job of organizing this week and really making sure it was productive, engaging, and enjoyable as well. I also want to thank the DEC group. They put together a cultural competency conference yesterday that was really about trauma-informed care and what we can do, what strategies we can use to support each other as employees and as colleagues, but also to support our students in all that they have been through and that they continue to live through. I'm very proud that many of the strategies that Dr. Oluwe mentioned about helping our students, we've deployed these things for several years, including making sure that faculty include in their syllabus links and resources for basic needs so that every student is aware that we care and that we are here to support them through food and all kinds of other supports and mental health supports and tutoring and all of that. So thanks to our care team, thanks to all of those that make that support possible. I'm going to paraphrase from one of Dr. Oluwe's slides, and it was a Twitter post, so I'm just going to paraphrase and give acknowledgement that an individual posted, "We are not working under normal conditions. Over time, this might become more normal, but if caring and compassion for each other is how we respond, that should be the normal, right? So that's caring for each other, caring for our employees, caring for our community, and most importantly, caring also for our students during this time. So speaking of caring, I'm going to move to the next slide and ask you if you would please, in the spirit of making sure people know who you are and that you know who they are, that if you would please wear a name tag. I will propose to you, no one, if Mona Lisa left this picture and was walking around, I propose you would not know who she was out of context. So I would ask that each of you wear a name tag so that our students know who we are, we know who each other we are. It kind of eases that tension of asking or introducing yourself. If someone's worked here for 10 years and you just haven't known them, you know, there's that awkwardness of they don't want to ask you and you don't want to ask them, but we want everybody to feel welcome. And so I know that the Public Information Office has ordered name tags. They will be in your mailboxes for permanent employees. They'll be in your mailboxes next week. If you want your name tag today, please walk over to the trailers, the little temporary village where PIO is housed. It's just across near the police trailer. And so please pick your badge up if you want it today, but otherwise it'll be in your mailbox. For those that are part-time and temporary employees, we have other ways to deal with that. We have, for our temporary employees, some name badges that we can write their name on. We also can order plenty of name tags for others, so please just work through your supervisor or your dean, and we will make sure that everybody has a designation and a name tag. I would also ask if you would to please consider loading your photo onto your email, so that when you're responding and in dialogue with somebody, that they may envision who you are as an individual. I know many of you have already done that. I'm going to make it my goal to do that this coming week. Part of that is me learning how to do that. And I know that the Public Information Office has sent out some information. We'll do that again. It's just another way for us to put a name and a face together and to build community again as we return. So, again, and just let's extend each other some grace and compassion. If somebody doesn't know who you are, it's okay. Introduce yourself. Maybe they've forgotten that they knew you three years ago. It's okay. We've all got a little bit of brain fog. So please let's give each other some grace in that. So the agenda for this morning, we've got a packed agenda, and we will differently pace it. We do have a student panel. That's what these chairs are for, and we've got some faculty that'll be engaging you in their perspectives as well as student perspectives. So we will try to keep our pacing going so that we're not going over time. We will remind ourselves of that pacing. I'll probably get the hook in a moment. So let me move to our next slide. Frank mentioned futures thinking. We as an institution have been working on, we got to deal with all the chaos and the myriad of things we have to deal with today. But we're really forcing ourselves as an institution to look 10 years out. We have spent about 3 years working with the board and throughout our institution. Last year, we had an intensive year of training about 60 people over the entire year, faculty, staff, students, administrators, board members, in using tools and developing abilities to look forward into the future. Part of that is deciding and learning who will be in our community in 10 years and who will be in our classrooms and how do they want to be served and how do they want to learn. And so that's really a critical part of our work. The reason that we do this work is because if we do nothing differently, if we just keep going with business as normal, our future, today, the narrow end of the cone is today, the wide end of the cone is 10 years from now. If we do nothing differently, we will just march into the most probable future, which is more of this, right? Unjust, unsustainable, not equitable, and we desire at MiraCosta a different future. We seek to create futures that are just, equitable, and sustainable. And that means we have to look out and we have to be mindful of the decisions that we're making today so that we create futures that are not the most probable, but are our preferable futures. So you can see that is not just marching straight ahead. We've got to learn to think differently and do some things differently if we want to move from the trajectory of what is the most probable future. So I didn't show you that slide. That's the one I was describing. My apologies. So you can see the narrow end of the cone is today, the wide end is the future. And if we do nothing different, we just march seriously into the most probable future. If we want to change that future, we must do some things differently about today to move into our preferable futures, that green circle kind of below the most obvious trajectory. So again, we do this work because we want to create just, equitable, and sustainable futures, which is not where we're headed this moment, right? It's not what our world is currently experiencing. And so we apply a lens to 10 years out. We are building bridges to now and making sure that, and checking that the decisions today lead to the futures we seek. We do not believe that the future is predetermined. We have some role in that, and the actions that we take can influence the future. That's our why. That's why we're doing this work. We are the only community college in the nation doing this kind of deep and broad work to look differently at the future and the communities that we seek to create. And so I'm going to ask one of our faculty members who has been really engaged in this work, he was our Academic Senate President last year, to tell you about kind of what his perspective has been and why we invite you to continue to be a part of our community of futurists. So Dr. Luke Latta.
Buenos dias. Good morning. My name is Luke Latta. I was the Academic Senate President, but I'm glad to be now in a different role. Many of you might know me as a counseling faculty member, but now I'm the ombudsperson for the Faculty Assembly, the full-time faculty union. And I had the privilege last year of participating in the Futures Academy that took place over the year, along with other faculty, classified members, administrators, as a community of learners. So to begin, to help you understand my perspective, I put this image out in front of you. What does it make you think of? To me, I remember when I started here at MiraCosta in 2009, and I was teaching courses. And as many new faculty members, you kind of take on the syllabi of other faculty who have been doing this a longer time that you look up to as mentors. And I adopted the same policies that were in place. And the policy that I had adopted at that time was to limit or ban the use of electronics in a classroom, because I believed, as many of my colleagues did, that it was a distraction to students in their learning. And look where we are right now. Computers, cell phones, electronic equipment and tools are ubiquitous in the classroom and outside, and are necessary for the learning process, as most of us now agree. Had we used futures thinking, we would have been prepared for this 10 years ago and even before that. So in terms of my perspective, as faculty, you know, we are lifelong learners. We're driven by curiosity in the pursuit of knowledge, correct? Futures thinking allows us to harness our perception of what is on the horizon, what new behaviors are out there, new services, new technology, and ways of knowing and being. We call this in futures thinking signals, right? It's not about forgetting about the past or living in the future. Futures thinking is really about being in the present and understanding and being more perceptive of what's happening now that will impact the possible futures that, as you saw in that cone, that we could be more prepared for and that we can shape. As faculty, we want to be proactive instead of reactive, right? And many experiences I've had is that the week before classes are starting, I'm scrambling to put together my syllabus, right? And maybe I've taught this class before, and so I can rest on the knowledge that I already know what I'm going to do. But when we get into the classroom, then, right, as equity-minded educators, we have to meet the students where they're at, right? And so we're always adapting. And could we have adapted before getting in the classroom, right? So futures thinking allows us to ask questions like, what is happening right now in the K through 12, and how might that impact us down the line, 5 years, 10 years from now? How is climate change impacting our way of life and the pursuit of education in California? What are the signals that surround us that could help us see the possible futures? This is the power of futures thinking. Futures thinking allows us to be collectively prepared for the students that will come through to us in 5 to 10 years or more, instead of catching up on where we ought to be. That kind of feels like the equity movement right now. We're trying to catch up to where we should be. Had we used futures thinking, we would probably be able to meet the needs now and close the gaps that we've created. Futures thinking allows us to develop curriculum and adapt our teaching and pedagogical approaches before we need to, not after. Futures thinking allows us to engage as a diverse community of perspectives and lived experiences. This work is done as a collective, not individually. And faculty typically do their work independently, with some opportunities to, as a collective, as a department, to think about and reflect on data. But futures thinking is about, as a community, what am I seeing? What is my colleague Sean seeing in other industries that might impact us? What does my colleague Edward see? What does my colleague Maria see that might be interesting that I didn't see, right? So as a collective, we bring together all these different things that we're seeing, we're perceiving as signals that will inform the collective and help us as a group move forward. Lastly, at MiraCosta College, we are contributing to futures thinking globally as the first community college, as Dr. Cook mentioned, to have gone through a collective training and application to our planning processes here with futures thinking. Our unique perspective in higher education as a community college, our deep understanding of our communities that we serve, and the application of equity will also benefit other industries' use of futures thinking. Futures thinking is only a tool, right? One of many that we have in our tool chest. And it is enhanced when it is used with equity-mindedness, racial and intersectional analysis. It is important that we not abandon the tools that we are already using and are helpful, but to use it and incorporate it to enhance our work and what we do for our students. So with that, I'd like to invite you to join our community, right? Because this is collective work. To join us in a self-paced course on futures thinking that will debut this fall. The format is modeled after the excellent and successful Black Community Allied Training, BCAT, which was developed by Dr. Wendy Stewart and Professor Shantae Mitchum. I, along with some other MiraCosta faculty, will be guides and facilitators of this course, and we welcome everyone in our community, classified as well as administrators, to join us. And with that, I'd like to introduce our next presenter on accreditation, Chris Tarman, Dean of Research, Planning, and Institutional Effectiveness. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. It's nice to see you all in person. I am a real person, so I'm glad to be here with you all, bigger than this size of a window. And I get to talk about accreditation. Woo! All right. On the edge of your seats, I'm sure. As many of you probably know by now, at least you should, but we'll catch you up now. We've been working on our institutional self-evaluation report for the last year. Lots of people have been involved in that work, and you're going to see our co-chairs for each standard come up. But I just wanted to remind everybody what accreditation really means and where we are in the process as well. It is a self-evaluation, okay? This isn't a compliance test, okay? So we're used to thinking of accreditation in those terms, but this is actually a self-evaluation. And so there are 4 major standards for the college to look and district to look at itself and see if we're meeting those standards, if we're exceeding those standards, or if we're falling a bit short. It's a time to reflect and understand where we need to go from here. So it's really kind of a planning tool, really, at heart. And so there are 4 standards. There's standard 1, which I'm usually a part of as the institutional effectiveness guru, I guess, on campus. We look at our mission, vision, values, goals, our commitment statement. Are we meeting that at the college? Do we have those processes in place? Assuring academic quality and institutional effectiveness. Do we have planning processes, data, program review? Learning outcomes are in that area, and institutional integrity. Are we doing those things to where we're publishing to the community and our peers and to our institutions that regulate us? Are we being truthful in that information? Catalog, for example, would fall there. Standard 2 is your instructional programs. Do we have those processes in place there? Library and learning support services and student support services as well in Standard 2. Standard 3 is all your resources, so human resources, physical resources, your budgeting, your technology. And lastly, Standard 4, which is your governance processes, your decision-making processes. Do we have those things set up, and are we evaluating them? Is our chief executive officer, is she being delegated proper authority to run the college? And then there's the governing board. Are they operating under the standards and doing the things they need to do to execute their role? So those are the 4 major standards. There's more to an accreditation report. There's a whole introduction. There's other stuff in there, but those are the big points. So how we organized for the writing of our institutional self-evaluation report, we had co-chairs, a tri-chair model for each of the standards. And so we have somebody that's a classified professional, faculty member, and an administrative co-chair. And then, of course, we have, and I can't say it enough, Cindy Dudley as part of that steering group, and she is instrumental in pulling everything together and dotting every I, crossing every T, and getting all the evidence together. So if you see her, buy her, a coffee, give her something, anything. She is just doing phenomenal work. And so what we're going to do, these are our co-chairs. Those that are here, we're going to come up and we're going to summarize the self-evaluation of what we found, both good and bad, for each of the standards. And so they're going to come up and give those summaries for each of the standards. And so you're not getting rid of me because I am a co-chair for Standard 1, but I'm going to introduce my other 2 wonderful colleagues that we've worked together all year to talk about what we are doing well and what needs improvement. So Michelle Onstadt and Steve Bale.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Chris. So one of the areas we should be most proud of as MiraCostans is the important work we've done to ensure that our institutional visions, values, and goals constitute our overall mission. So since our last accreditation visit, we've fully engaged in the important work of making sure our vision for an equitable, inclusive learning environment is woven into the fabric of our daily efforts. That our values are rooted in serving our disproportionately affected populations, and that we've aligned our goals to focus on first-time students and the overall student experience. Part of that is continuous dialogue, discourse, and focus on the mission at every faculty, governance, and administrative committee meeting, in our hiring practices, classrooms, and student services, continuously reminding ourselves to ensure all efforts and activities are conducted through the lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion. But we don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk. We took the steps and invested resources in a state-of-the-art data dashboard so we could get real-time data to disaggregate, filter down, and inform our student success statistics by population. We invested in a new platform to house student learning outcomes and program review to better inform our programs and classrooms on what we're doing well, where the gaps are, and to set goals for continuous sustainable improvement, especially for the groups of students that data shows us are underserved. Of course, there's more work to be done, but we can be proud of the track we're on. We've developed and nurtured a student-centered approach through our integrated planning efforts. It's present in our program review prompts. It's working through our core competency efforts. It's demonstrated in our classrooms, our student services, and our counseling departments. And it precipitates those inspiring stories of success from students who dared to take the challenge, to dream the dream. Okay.
Good morning. Another area where we are doing well is in our use of disaggregated data to inform planning across the college. Disaggregated data highlights enrollment, student achievement, and numerous other student and course characteristics. This information is valuable to program review authors who use this data to identify trends and to formulate goals towards student success and equity. Cohort-based training programs, such as the SEDICA Strong Workforce Faculty Institute and the C3 Teaching and Learning Center's Cultural Curriculum Collective, helps faculty use data in making informed decisions that directly impact students in the classroom. Disaggregated data is a key component in institutional planning.
And since our last accreditation self-study, the Institutional Program Review Committee, IPRC, which Michelle and I were both on for many years, has affected many changes to the planning process. The biggest change was to deliberately separate planning from resource allocation requests into two separate processes. Program review planning now takes place in the spring, while resource allocation requests occur in the fall. And so that change helped focus program review authors on goals and action plans, resulting in much richer planning rather than planning based primarily on funding requests.
Next, IPRC moved program review into a 3-year rolling cycle. Every 3 years, a program completes a comprehensive program review and an annual update in the intervening years. IPRC also implemented a mentoring program to help authors in answering writing prompts, and the IPRC regularly collaborates with RPI to offer training opportunities in accessing and using data effectively.
IPRC also evaluates the overall program review process by analyzing a random sample of program reviews from a variety of programs across the college, which helps identify areas where the process can be improved. Lastly, the IPRC adopted the Anthology, it used to be Campus Labs, it's now Anthology, cloud-based platform, streamlining the program review and resource allocation processes. Chris.
And everybody loves Campus Labs and / Anthology, right? Anyway, the last thing that we are exceptional at, and I'm going to call out my colleague John Tomford and the OAC Core Competency Work Group and all the efforts that they've been doing around our core competencies, which are our institutional student learning outcomes. It's exceptional work being done there. We are almost through a whole cycle of evaluating all 13 of our core competencies, which were developed in 2018. And there's a really good model and energy around that program. And in fact, what we would need to do is probably expand that, right? So there's work being done in OAC. So I would say we probably meet or even exceed the standard in that area. I would be remiss to say that where we need some improvement, and there's some good reasons for it, but our assessment of our course learning outcomes and our program learning outcomes are probably where a lot of you don't want them to be. So due to COVID, switching to Campus Labs, that really kind of derailed the work. But we've alerted our chairs over the summer to begin working on plans to get that caught up. But right now, looking at that data that was in Campus Labs, and already some of you have already caught up and are wondering if they could get an update to the report. Excuse me. But we are probably behind in not meeting the standards in assessing course flows and program learning outcomes at this point. So we have plans in shape, and we got to kind of move that work forward. Okay, so that's standard one. Sorry to keep moving on. So I'm going to introduce my colleagues from Standard 2, and they're going to talk about that.
Thank you. Alketa Wojcik, pronounced she, her, Vice President of Student Services, and along with me is Danae Carmona, Vice President of Instructional Services, and Jim Julius, our Faculty Director for Online Learning. So we're going to make this very quick for Standard 2. I know Kristen already has given us time that we're going way over our time. So what we're doing well with the Standard 2 is looking specifically at instruction, is looking at library and academic support, as well as student services. And what we are doing very well is providing an incredible support for our students in a holistic way in supporting students inside the classroom and outside the classroom. And also I want to take a moment to thank everybody that contributed in putting together Standard 2. So the faculty directors for the centers, our librarians also, and professionals in the library services worked very hard in putting this standard together. So thank you to everyone that contributed towards that. And along those lines, we're providing a very strong academic and learning support for our students. Our centers are doing incredible jobs, along with the library, in supporting our students with our academic work. And the last in that is that we are doing great in maintaining policies and procedures related to curriculum and program development. So just very few areas. We're doing incredible work in instruction and student support, but these are some areas that we wanted to emphasize. An area that needs improvement and we're working towards, Chris already mentioned it is our PSLOs and course SLOs. And specifically having a sustaining authentic assessment for CSLOs and PSLOs. And really last that we looked in the course SLOs, we were at 26% assessment overall for our courses, and the accreditation expects us to be at 100%. So we have some percentages to go to get there. So that's one of the focus that is going to be for this fall, and the PSLOs as well have a low percentage, and we will work on that. I know that on September 30th, there will be a workshop that is specifically focused toward course SLOs and PSLOs to work on that. So that is for Standard 2, and I will pass it on to my colleagues for Standard 3. Thank you all.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Eva Brown from Human Resources. I'd like to introduce the co-chairs for Accreditation Standard 3 Resources, Tim Flood, Charlie Ng, and Joe Solomon. Standard 3 Resources, what are we doing well? We are employing qualified administrators, faculty, and staff. Human Resources and our hiring committees do a great job ensuring we hire qualified applicants for administrators, faculty, and staff. Evidence of this is in our job descriptions, job announcements, the equivalency process, and Title V, establish the education and experience qualifications for all personnel. We're constructing, renovating, and maintaining safe, accessible, and sufficient facilities. The college established clear guiding documents, policies, and procedures related to the acquisition, construction, maintenance, and upgrading of its physical resources. These overarching plans have been successfully implemented in a manner that assures effective utilization and programmatic success, thereby achieving the mission of the college. We are responding to student technical support needs. MiraCosta meets the standard by providing comprehensive student technical support for all technology systems and services, including hardware, software, technology and facilities, instructional platforms, infrastructure, internet, and telecommunications. Lastly, we're utilizing our integrated planning and resources allocation processes. The college's resource allocation process provides a means for setting priorities for funding, institutional improvements. The college's Budget and Planning Committee has worked to improve the process for prioritizing program review requests. Excuse me, my fingers aren't working here. And a communication over the last 2 years based on input from collegial consultation groups. And now I'll turn it over to Tim.
During the process, we also identified some areas that we knew we needed improvement. This probably isn't going to come as a shock to anybody because there are areas that we've already been working on. We know that we need to continue to enhance that. So the first one is our professional development and onboarding processes, knowing that we need to enhance that to ensure that we're giving faculty, staff, and administrators the support and the tools they need to be successful within MiraCosta. And the other is 2 really planning documents and the processes that those documents support. So within the facilities plan and the technology plan. So we're in the process of updating both of those plans and looking at the process in which facilities and technology is replaced in a timely and a proficient manner. So those are the main areas that we saw that we needed to really continue to work on and enhance. And with that, I will turn it over to Standard 4.
Hello, we represent Standard 4. I'm Luke Lara, past Academic Senate President, and we have
Carl Banks. Classified Senate President.
And of course, Superintendent President Dr. Sonny Cook. So, thank you. I really feel bad for the other standards because this was a pretty good standard. We do a great job, as you can see, you know. We got things going well for us is that we have very clear policies and procedures regarding decision-making at MiraCosta. We pride ourselves on, you know, having clear policies all the way from the work that we do at Academic Senate, Classified Senate, up through to the administration and the Board of Trustees. We have a governance manual, and at College Council, we review this regularly and make adjustments as needed to make sure that we're functioning, all right? We have a full-time CEO, all right? And I'm not just kidding here because there are other colleges that don't, right? And so as part of accreditation is stability, right? How do we have and continue what we're doing and progress and grow? We need to have a CEO that is competent and leads the college with direction. Well, you know, we have a yearly evaluation for her, so you know. The Board of Trustees, again, as you heard earlier, we have a Board of Trustees that is all about student success. They've been doing that for many years. Our Board of Trustees have been a part, many of them, for many years. I think Frank mentioned he was on the board for 5 years, but really 7. That's a testament to the work that we're doing and how we're growing here at MiraCosta, and that is reflected in our standard. But we do have some areas of improvement that we have to focus on. We sent out a survey in the spring for governance, and we heard you, okay? First, we need to communicate better. We can do that. We can communicate better because governance stuff can sometimes be a little bit like up here, right? How do we make that personal and connected with your everyday work? Why is that important? How do you get involved as faculty, as classified professionals? How do you get involved in these processes? The documents are nice and pretty. They sit on the Board of Trustees website. The policies are clear, but the actual action to implement it can be a little foggy, and so we can do a better job of communicating that. And so in doing that, doing more outreach, especially with our students. Although we sent the survey out to student leaders, we didn't get any feedback from students. And that's a huge population that we need to connect with and understand their understanding of the governance process, right? And then lastly, professional learning to help all of us understand how we can be involved and make that clearer and more inviting and more welcoming across the board. Anything else? All right, thank you very much.
Okay, so as you could see from this process, this wasn't a compliance thing, a check the box thing. This was a chance to be self-reflective and to really think about our institution in a very deep way. And we were able to brag about a lot of things. That's what accreditation can do. You can look back and go, wow, we've done all this work, and we can celebrate that together. Yes, we have some things to improve, but we also get to celebrate together our accomplishments. So you all get to chance to read this document this fall, where it's coming to a place near you, starting in mid-September, all the way through October, November. So you'll have a chance to read it. It'll be exciting, I'm sure, keep you awake at night. But we do welcome your feedback. That is an important part of the process, is to look at all the work that everybody did to put the report together. It will go to the board twice, and so we're looking for the second read in mid-November board meeting to turn into the commission in December. The commission, the evaluation team, or review team will meet in March 30th and go through the report. It's a new process now that we're engaging in, so they're able to engage us in the spring semester. If they have any questions, they don't quite understand something, we have the ability to engage with that review team and give them information to clarify. And of those things that they still have questions about, then there'll be a focus visit in the fall a much smaller team, very focused on those issues they still see as outstanding. And so it's kind of different than before. It's not the full team that comes and you're scared that they might talk to you or whatever. So it's a little different process. So that's the rest of the timeline for accreditation. And you'll see me and be sick of me talking at your meetings for a while, but that's okay, and throughout the fall. So that's accreditation. I'm now going to invite my wonderful colleague, Danae Pascarmona, to talk about fall enrollment, another exciting topic.
Thanks for that. Good morning, everyone. I'm Danae Pascarmona. I don't know most of you, and I apologize for that. I know most of you in the box. I've been here about 11 months, but I'm excited to continue to meet all of you. And as someone who was a longtime faculty member, 10 plus years as a full-time faculty member, I also know how most people feel about all college days and opening days and convocations and all the things we call them. So I know that most of you right now who are faculty are thinking about the 10 different things you want to do in your Canvas shells, your syllabi, all the things you have to do, and why am I sitting here, OMG? And for our staff folks who are out there going, I've got lines out the door in A&R, I've got financial aid, and so I just want to acknowledge for a moment that these are kind of the days where we come together and there's a million things and it's our busiest day. And so as we kind of come together to be present in this work, I really do think that, as Dr. Cook said, coming together in community after so long apart, and for me, coming into a space where it's been kind of a ghost town here, so it's nice to actually see human people. So I'm sorry, because every time I get up in front of you, whether it's webinar or here, I feel like I'm kind of a broken record. So our enrollments are down. I'm just going to put that on a t-shirt and not keep saying it. But I think what's important is that data are neither good nor bad. They are just data. They are things that help us inform our narrative and our praxis moving forward. So when we look at our data, we are currently a small college. And that's probably something that I don't think we really thought about and what that means. I think if we were looking at San Elijo, it's important to note that we would not be even a center at San Elijo with the number of FTEs that we are generating there. So it gives us a moment of pause. And we were in decline prior to the pandemic. That is indicative of the demographic shifts that we're seeing in our service area. But again, data are neither good nor bad. They tell us a story. And so where we are right now is we're down about 3% in headcount and almost 7% in FTES. That's from this point in time last fall. We can steer into the skid. I'm sorry, I have a 15-year-old child who's going through driver's ed training, so there might be a lot of driver's ed metaphors in this presentation. But I also want to dig a little deeper. Who are we missing? Because that's how we frame our narrative. And as we look at who our students are and who our students continue to be, and is that a blank screen or are you actually seeing something? Sweet. Okay. Oh, Kristen added animation. Nice. All right. I should have checked that out. Who are our students? So who's showing up? So I'll tell you right now, of the students we have coming, we are up in 18 to 20-year-old enrollments. So our traditional age students are showing up. Our over 40s have come back. Just slightly, a few percentage points, but they're back. We continue, though, to be down in double digits for our students who are over 20 and under 40. We've already identified that as a disproportionately impacted population through our ACP work, and so we need to continue to find ways to figure out what types of educational opportunities these populations are looking for and how we can meet those needs. But I will say there's amazing work going on right now, short-term planning and then our futures planning. So if you could give a what or a jump up and down if you have been involved in any one of the Welcome Fests. Hands, come on. I've seen a lot of you. It's been the first opportunity I've had to actually meet people IRL. So we've had about 500 folks come through both San Elijo and Oceanside over the past 2 weeks. Family members, students, and they are hungry for service and community, and this is a way that we demonstrate to our community that we are open and we are here and we want you back. We have our last Welcome Fest at CLC this Saturday, and then we have the August Fest at the San Elijo campus the last Saturday in August, hosted by TCI. So, lots and lots of outreach efforts. We talked a little bit about the Welcome Fest. We've talked about the work we're doing with our outreach teams, with our ACP leads. Some of the other things that we're doing, and this is important for all of you to know, because this is going to be what we're doing now, but also informing our future planning. We're engaging in market research, particularly in the southern part of our district, where we know we need to do things a little bit different to re-engage the community and get them back at the San Elijo campus. So how can we serve these populations in the southern part of our region and those students who are 20 to 40? Those folks who may need upskilling, reskilling, coming back, how do we get them here and let them know about what we're doing? So a lot of outreach efforts and a lot of marketing efforts and some targeted marketing efforts. So coming up, we have, like I said, market research for San Elijo. We're also going to be engaging with RPI and Instructional Services and Student Services. We're partnering on a student survey to help us get a sense of how students want to take classes. How do they want to engage with us? These are our current students, but it also helps inform what our future students are looking for. I heard Angela Senegalia made a comment at the CLC open house that it seems right now that time is almost more important than money for a lot of our students, and how much time they're willing to give us. And so that has sort of stuck with me. We will be thinking about this, and then Alketa Wojcik and I will be engaging with all of you for some lunch and learn opportunities around what enrollment recovery actually looks like. How do we stabilize, and then how do we see what populations we aren't serving well, and how can we think about serving them better? So that is a little bit about fall. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to bring back for an encore performance Chris Tarman, the Dean of Research Planning and Institutional Effectiveness, who has why didn't I get the high notes? I should have gotten high notes. Anyway, come on, Chris.
Okay, I'm back. All right. So high notes. And data guys here, that's weird. So I'm going to just show some data slides real quick just to show the work that we've been doing and some of the gains that we're making. I will preface this that by the most recent cohort of students on our Guided Pathways student first time in college student cohorts, we are seeing a little bit of a regression in some of the numbers. I am not presenting them here because that wouldn't be the high note. But anyway, there is a little bit of a flattening out of our metrics coming up, so we need to be prepared for that, and that's not surprising given what our students have been going through. But there is some good news when we look at our traditional Guided Pathways metrics. So this is attaining completed units for all these cohorts. So you see all the numbers kind of increasing for each cohort. And what we know about full-time status, right, completing these units, that gets students to complete more quickly so they don't stop out and life kind of hits them and then they have to come back later. But looking at the data, which was interesting, is students aren't, I'm full-time and then I'm always full-time, or I'm part-time and I'm always part-time. So we're looking at some interesting data to where full-time students that started full-time in the fall, about 15 to 20% become part-time and then they become full-time, and so they're kind of moving around. Same with if they started part-time, they become about 15 to 20% become full-time students. So they're kind of moving around. These aren't just like, full-time students and part-time, it's all mixed in to the data. But some positive movement there. If we look at our transfer level math and English completion rates, gains consistently for both departments there, more than doubled in math. We're seeing increases for our Latinx, Chicanx, and Black and African American students, which is what you want to see. There's still equity gaps, however, so there's still work to be done, but you like to see that nice upward trend. Looking at the completion, so students earning an associate's degree of any kind, you see that nice upward trend. So students are still completing even through COVID. They're getting their degrees, and so you see that, and then you see that the huge jump for our associate degree for transfers. which is really beneficial for our students. If we look at a cohort rate, those are also improving. I didn't show that here, but of the percentage of first-time students that complete within 3 years, that rate has also been going up. So I just wanted to point out that these are really nice trends to show. And I'm going to highlight real quick, and a big shout out to Dr. Nick Mortallone back there, and Devin Boone, where are you? I think you're over here. This presentation, I'm stealing your thunder here, Nick, but it was a presentation given to the Board of Trustees in July, so many of you might have missed it. But this data was phenomenal data about the impact of the CARES funding and the emergency grant and rental assistance that we provided for our students. So being there, being present for our students really was an important part of our work during COVID. And so if you look at so I think we gave out about $17 million, a little bit over, to students for individual grants. They started off at about $500 per grant in the first few semesters, and then by the end, we were able to give much more than that, close to $2,000 in emergency grant money. At the beginning of that program, about 5% of total students took advantage of the grants, and by the end, it was over a quarter of the students that were able to be assisted with these emergency grants that we got to help with COVID, help our students with rental assistance and emergency. So, yes. So looking at this table, see the types of students that we were serving. It's our, disproportionately impacted student groups that were able to take advantage of these grants. So I wanted to show who was being served. We look at success rates. So now you wouldn't necessarily think that giving emergency grants would impact success in the classroom, but it looks a little bit flat, but there are increases there. You wouldn't necessarily expect that, but there are increases. And we did see increases in certain populations of students, of course, success. So for our adult high school education students, they saw a big bump in success by receiving the grant money. Among students that are economically impacted, so they would be receiving the Cal Promise or Pell, or identified as food or housing insecure on our pre-registration survey. Among that group of students, the students that received the assistance did better on course success. So I wanted to point that out, but really where we saw this huge jump is in persisting, that's where you would think this type of assistance would help students stay in school because they had the support they needed to continue on. And I don't have to say, but it was up to 20 points difference, right, on all students. I mean, you could see that trend really clearly. And those students that received both the rental assistance and the emergency grant funding, they even did better. So I just wanted to point out, that is the work that we're doing here at our college. And, my colleagues, Devin and Nick and Student Affairs and Wendy and your whole shop, but all of you in instruction. That caring attitude, this is what it's about, and this is the impact that we have with our students. So I wanted to leave you with what this meant to students, really, and that's the focus that we need to maintain. So I always talk about dry numbers, but these quotes are why we do the work and what the data means. So those are my high notes. I'm going to leave you with that. Continue that great work that you're doing to support our students during a really difficult time. And I'm looking forward to the next year. So with that, Charlie Ng, Cultural Climate Survey.
Well, good morning, everyone. So good to see so many people. I've noticed different hair lengths. I've noticed different hair colors. And it's just great to see everyone. So I'm so happy to be here. I almost feel like I want to dance. And remember 9 years ago, y'all saw me dance a little bit, but I'm not going to do that now. But we are a little bit beyond the halfway point, so kind of like a little seventh inning stretch, if you're able and willing, if you can just do a little stretch here. just to kind of do a little health and wellness from the HR team here. Very good. Thank you so much for that participation. Okay, so we're going to talk about the Cultural Campus Climate Survey. And first of all, I want to thank the working group that made contributions into sort of processing the survey, sort of analyzing, and then trying to come up with some recommendations on what to do with that information. You can see the names that are listed there. And so, we did the survey, with the analysis, and then finally in the spring of 2022, the group documented and delivered some suggested action items. I'm going to kind of highlight them for you today. They were organized, the information is kind of categorized, I should say, into different elements, if you will, and the biggest and most overwhelming part of the survey was the culture at MiraCosta College. And I'm going to say two things about the culture. First of all, number one, overall, the survey was positive. It was 80% favorable or comfortability around working or being a student at MiraCosta. And the survey focused on both students and employees. And in doing so, the survey revealed that generally speaking, MiraCosta is a great place to go to school and a great place to go to work in general. So it's certainly something to be proud of and to acknowledge, because you are involved and participate in a community here that is really doing good things. However, there were some things that were identified in the survey that, although 80% is great, it certainly isn't perfect, and in analyzing the data after you disaggregate it, there's some areas where it's less than 80%. There's some areas that are better than 80%, right? And so when you do the analysis, it kind of came down to this. Culture was the biggest, most sort of compelling argument around what's happening, or the story, I should say, around what's happening in MiraCosta. They are around a sense of belonging. They are around this perception of hierarchy between employees and students, and within employees, whether you're part-time faculty, associate faculty, or full-time faculty, or administrators, or classified professionals. There is experienced by some this sense of fear of retaliation, that they can't do something or say something for fear of retaliation. And finally, the last two were around support, people feeling like they could be supported. They weren't either believed or they weren't taken seriously around certain points that were raised, and that for some, the workload is overwhelming, and that we're working too hard, we're working too long, we're working weekends and nights and vacations and all those sorts of things, and off-contract days, everything. So those are some things that were identified, and so the Campus Climate Survey Working Group, they made some suggestions on how we can address some of those things. There were some also elements around inclusion, diversity, equity, and access, things around either our facilities perhaps, or the way that our policies and procedures are. And so those are some of the things that came up around those issues. And a lot of the things around culture are either a lack of awareness or a lack of training. Not professional development per se, because there wasn't really an issue. Like, we know we do professional development around that sort of thing, but then it's around, well, how are we applying it at work? And what is the culture here? And what training are we doing here specifically for MiraCosta and how we behave here? Those are the sorts of the things that kind of resulted or came out of the survey. Around awareness and training, around belonging, around hierarchy, around retaliation, around support, and around workload. Those are all things that we can do if we have conversations about them, if we have awareness training around them, we'd actually do training around them, in addition to all the professional development efforts that we do already. Engagement was another one, and that includes things like performance evaluations and how effective they are, and are we training people to do effective evaluations, and what about people who want to leave MiraCosta and the thoughts of people wanting to leave MiraCosta, whether you're a student or an employee. So those things came up, and a lot of that also can be addressed through either awareness or training. There were some issues that were identified in terms of leadership, again, sort of awareness and training for leadership, sort of an onboarding for all employees, that it needed to be more comprehensive than what we're doing now, which was mentioned earlier in the accreditation piece, so there's some linkages there. Organizational development, our own policies and procedures, and way we can make those things better, both from a culture standpoint and how we do things, but also from an equity standpoint in terms of being an anti-racist institution, and what we're doing around our equity efforts, being sure we address our policy and procedures around those sorts of things. And then there's some issues around recruitment, particularly promotions. People feel like our promotion process isn't as transparent as it ought to be, or as some things aren't perceived as being fair. Again, these are awareness and training issues that we can address, and being more intentional about our professional development and training, which we've already started with some work that we're doing with a consultant from Achieving the Dream in Mary Spildy and other constituents around campus who are working on some sort of strategic, overall, comprehensive professional development training for the campus, which it now includes, again, it's not just professional development, it's what kind of training can we do for an institution to make us a better institution and work within our own policy and procedures to be better at what we do in serving our students. And then, of course, making things more transparent, communication, you heard that earlier as well, not just around the work that we do, but around the recommendations that we make, even just this report alone. How do we see the report? How do we identify what we're going to do? How are we transparent about the work that we're doing about it and getting things done? Those sorts of things. So HR has taken on the goal of trying to improve and enhance, and we think that we can make a difference on a lot of these aspects in the issues around onboarding. And again, awareness and training are some of the big issues around what can really help the culture around the campus. Improving communication, addressing our policies and procedures, and also working with facilities and informing, the work that we do around information around like spaces for different people and how people feel comfortable in their spaces. Strategies to address all these different issues around awareness and training, communication, policies, procedures, and facilities is basically onboarding employees and being more comprehensively, and also being more intentional and comprehensive about our professional development and training, which I mentioned earlier. I mean, those are the two big strategies that we think that will leverage many of the issues that we discovered in the Campus Climate Survey for the benefit of all the employees and the students here. And so onboarding, I'm going to start to shorten this presentation because I know we're kind of going along, but these are some of the benefits of onboarding. Particularly, it's important to have people welcome here. When people feel like they've had a good onboarding experience, they know what the rules are, they know what they need to get done, they know how their work is get done, and then in terms of appreciation of their work, a supervisor might tell someone, "I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you came to work at MiraCosta." I mean, those are the kind of things that we can do to be intentional around appreciating our employees and the students when you're in the classroom, when you're saying, "I'm really glad you showed up at MiraCosta. I'm really glad to have the opportunity to teach here, or be a counselor here, or be a librarian here." And then training and professional development, I mentioned that earlier. Also, these are some of the benefits of what we can do around professional development and training. Again, it's really going beyond the academic impression stuff. It's going beyond the things of the chancellor's office. It's going beyond just the stuff that happens in PDP. It's really about what can we do as a organization and training specifically for us to be better and make contributions for our campus culture and what we're doing to be a really wonderful place to either work or learn. And finally, this is my invitation to you all to participate in this, because we can't do this alone. HR can't do it alone. These stakeholders by themselves can't do it alone. I mean, the culture of a campus is in what we do. It's in how we work with each other. It's in how we get things done. Are we all connected really to the mission, the vision, the values, the commitments that we've made to the institution and our students? Are we doing that together? Are we having conversations about that in addition to the training and the professional development? Like, what does it mean to work at MiraCosta? And what are people saying about it when they work here? So when you go off and you go talk to other people, or other students talk to other students, they're saying the things that we want them to say, that we care about outcomes, that we're equitable and we're anti-racist, and that we're just around what we do, that we're sustainable, all the things that Sunny said earlier, and that we're proud of that. And we can wear that on a t-shirt. So, and people will know that from just discussions and common people coming together. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Equity Plan Update by Dr. Winnie Stewart.
Buenos dias, sawubona, talofa lova. Good morning. when I would see my grandmother and visit her, I would always say, "It's good to see you," and her response was, "It's good to be seen." So I have to say it's good to see everybody here. I know there's a lot of folks who are also streaming in, and while we can't see you, it's good to feel your energy in the room. And I'm excited to be here to provide an update on our student equity planning process and give some updates on some of our DEI initiatives. So to begin with, our student equity plan is a report that we submit to the Chancellor's office, and it highlights 5 specific metrics. So there's a lot of different metrics that we take into account for the purposes of student equity, for serving our students, for understanding what is happening with our students and the student experience. But for the purpose of this specific plan, we focus on enrollment, we focus on retention, completion of transfer level math and English. We look at completion of a certificate, completion of a degree, as well as transfer to a 4-year institution. And the Chancellor's office establishes the populations that we look at, and we compare to see is there something happening with specific students that we know is impacting success, is impacting the student experience, and possibly creating gaps that we need to focus on. So the populations are our foster youth students, our students with disabilities, low-income students, veterans. We look at race and ethnicity, homeless student populations, LGBTQ+, and that is different than maybe how we define it here at the campus with LGBTQIA+. We look at gender, and we also look at first-generation students. And so we do an analysis and look at the data to really decide who is disproportionately impacted. So this plan is really critical as we move forward these next 3 years and looking at how we want to design our strategies towards closing equity gaps. So a few updates about this plan. It's data informed. So we receive data from the Chancellor's office in the form of student equity and achievement data, and we combine that with other data points that we have, guided pathways data that tells us the critical momentum points that students experience, basic needs data. We look at our qualitative data and student voice. We also, this plan is a little bit of a shift from previous plans in that the Chancellor's office is now asking us to highlight and focus on our 5 most disproportionately impacted students. So for MiraCosta, what we did, and I say we because Christina Londi, who is our program manager for student success and student equity, and she's sitting there, I just want her to wave her hand. She is my partner in student equity planning, so it is while I am standing at the mic, it is a we, because we definitely have been working collaboratively on this along with folks across the campus who are giving input. But this plan represents a little bit of a shift. The Chancellor's office wants us to look at who are the 5 most disproportionately impacted. So we looked at things like, where are the historical gaps? So where do we see equity gaps that have spanned for 3+ years at the college? What are some gaps that have emerged out when we're coming outside of COVID? So we know that COVID impacted our students. What are some of the gaps that we are seeing as we're coming out of that time period? And I know we're still in it, right? So we're still seeing that having an impact on our students. We also looked at what are areas where we see students showing in more than one metric. So we're seeing student populations that are not only impacted in enrollment, but we see enrollment and retention, or retention and completion. And those are some of the factors that we took into account in identifying those 5 most disproportionately impacted students. The plan requires us to be race conscious. And this is a new addition to the plan, and one that we're excited about. We have a commitment to being a racially just campus. And so one of the things that we had to respond to is how are we taking into account race, which is a predominant factor when we look at equity gaps at our college at MiraCosta. We had an opportunity to look at inequitable and equitable structures and also identify some action steps. So you can see the timeline that we have, and it's not ideal. So you'll notice that the first box is May, and normally we get our data a little bit farther in advance of when the plan is due. It gives us a little bit more time to be responsive and to really analyze the data. The Chancellor's office released the data to us in May, right before summer. But we've been able to engage across summer, looking at the data, analyzing the data, looking at our continual equity gaps or areas where there might be new gaps that are emerging, and looking at how we want to reflect the equity work that's happening across the campus, and really looking future focused on what we want to do over the next 3 years. So August and November, we're really going to be focused on having the plan vetted, helping you to see the details of the plan. So this is not the only opportunity to get these snapshots. We're going to have forums where we'll be able to talk a little bit more in depth in the data, talk about some of the strategies in the plan, and then we also have to go through our approval process. So our constituency groups will have a chance to view the plan, our governance groups, and then finally the board will approve the plan, and it's due to the Chancellor's office in November. So who were the 5 students that we saw when we really looked at all of our data? And we took a holistic view at not just the data the Chancellor's office gave us, but also looking at guided pathways momentum points and what we are seeing in other areas with our equity work. And we identified Black African American students, Latinx students, male students, Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander students, and adult learners. So these were 5 student populations that when we looked at the data rose to the top as our most disproportionately impacted. This does not by any means represent all of the populations that we take into account when we do equity work. So we know that there are other areas of disproportionate impact, other populations that experience historical marginalization and are minoritized students, and other areas of the campus that we need to pay attention to. But for the purposes of this plan, these are 5 student populations that warrant our attention when we look at the data. Some of the strategies that we identified are sustaining and continuing the good equity work that is happening on campus, looking at inequitable structures, campus-wide professional learning, taking into account our wraparound services that we designed specifically for our disproportionately impacted students and aren't just designed for students but are culturally relevant and take into account the specific culture and population that we're identifying. We also took into account spaces, both physically as well as in the work that we do, that we want to make sure are inclusive and representative of the students. So 2 other things that I want to touch upon that are also things that we're working on updating our student equity resource document. So some of you may have already looked at that document. It's called Understanding the Gap. And we developed it in 2019 because MiraCosta actually, we're blessed that we have really rich data sources. And I have to shout out Lisa Trescott, who is home taking care of her new baby, and Maria Lissner in research planning and institutional effectiveness. They were critical in receiving that data last minute, crunching it, and creating dashboards for us so that we could quickly look at the data and analyze it. The resource document is encompassing of not just the student equity and achievement data, but also our guided pathways data, all of the different data points that we know help us to inform what's happening with our students. So we're going to be updating the Understanding the Gap document in addition to updating the student equity plan. And some things to look forward to in that include not only data, but also elevating the student voice. We provide resources and recommendations. And then one of the things that I know Christina and I are especially excited about, it's something that's unique to MiraCosta. We're proud of it. It's something that actually we are finding as we're getting the word out, other colleges are not doing, is we conducted disproportionately impacted inquiry groups. And what that is we recognize that especially for our historically marginalized students and our communities, we have to provide an opportunity for those communities to look at the data for those students, because you're going to yield different responses and a different lens. So we had DI inquiry groups. Many of you in the room might have served as some of the facilitators for those groups for each of our disproportionately impacted students, and we reflected that as data that informs our work in the equity resource document. So we're going to be conducting those groups again, but this time we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're actually going to start a new program called Equity Champions, and I called my son a champ the other day, and he said, "Mom, I'm not a champ, I'm a G." So assign whatever word you would like for a champion. But Equity Champions are going to be, it's going to be open to classified professionals, faculty, administrators, Folks who are interested in leading one of these DI inquiry groups for your representative community, we will provide training and facilitation and also provide professional learning funding as a thank you for participating. So this is a new program that we're going to be rolling out. Stay tuned for it, and there'll be more information that we'll send out via email. In 2020, as we faced the onset of the pandemic, as the campus went remote, right, and we faced a lot of different challenges, our campus actually pivoted and leaned into our anti-racist work, and we started our campus-wide book reads. And I remember the book drive-thrus that we had at Oceanside, at San Elijo, at CLC, where we handed out over 800 of So I Want to Talk About Race and How to Be an Anti-Racist books. And for many folks, we hadn't seen each other in quite a long time, so even though we were handing books through windows as people were driving by, it was still heartwarming to see the response of the campus and how many people were interested in engaging the work. So we've continued those campus-wide book reads, and every year and in different terms, we've had a different book. And we've also had the authors of these books come to campus. Many of you might have heard Dr. Kendi, we've had Dr. Ben Simon, we've had Reina Grande that's come and talk to faculty, talk to staff, talk to students, talk to administrators, so that we're not just reading the books, but we're also looking at how do we want to embody some of these concepts and how do we want to incorporate that into the work that we do. So this past summer, we had A Dream Called Home by Reina Grande, and you might have noticed the table out front when you walked in, and we had our student equity team handing out books. You also hopefully got Becoming a Hispanic Serving Institution. So this upcoming year, we're really excited and doing something a little bit different. We're continuing our book reads with Becoming an HSI by Dr. Gina Garcia, and we're still going to have those opportunities to read the book, to engage in the book, and we're also having her come virtually to the campus on October 5th. But we're dedicating a whole entire year to servingness. So MiraCosta has been an HSI, and that means a Hispanic Serving Institution, which is a federal designation that you get if you enroll a certain percentage of Latinx students. We've been an HSI since 2013. And so what this year will really be dedicated to is our shift from not just enrolling and producing Latinx students, but serving Latinx students. And for us to really think critically on what does it mean for us to be an HSI. Yes, yes. And I'm up here representing this, but it comes from a team of folks that have been meeting since spring to talk about this. And there's also, we have members of Mi Gente, we have members of Locutora Alcura, we have members of the Title V grant team that we're putting together a lot of what are the bones of this effort to really looking at and investigating what does it mean for us to be an HSI. So if you got your book, I want you to hold up your book where you are. If you're virtual, that's okay. You can hold it up even if nobody's looking at you. Okay, so we can see folks got books. There also are additional books that are available at the CLC, at San Elijo, at Oceanside, so we'll continue to hand out books throughout the semester. You don't have to have read the book to engage in some of the activities, but we want you to read the book, and it's a core part of that year of servingness that we're going to engage in. Finally, I know I gave a lot of information, statistics, activities, initiatives. Where do you go to get information? We have an ongoing diversity, equity, inclusion website that is designed to be a centralized resource to our student equity data, to our campus-wide initiatives. There's also resources there, and I want to shout out the student equity team that quickly this week worked to make sure to put the updates on the equity champions and some of the other efforts that we're doing up on the website. So if you go there today, you'll be able to find some of the highlights. We'll make sure to also include the PowerPoint slides so that folks can connect with it and spend a little bit more time. I work in a building of millennials, so they were like, you need to put the QR code and not just the website up there. So shout out to our millennials at the college. Thank you, and I'd like to now call up our Vice President of Administrative Services, Tim Flood.
Thank you, Wendy. First of all, I'd just like to thank Charlie for noticing that I was wearing my hair a little bit longer this morning. It's when you notice the little things that you know people really care. So Charlie, thank you very much. I'm here to give a little bit of an update on facilities and also what's going to happen, and then also some self-service tips, and then we'll go into, I think, what is another really exciting project that the college is looking at. So this first image that you're looking at is the construction impact that we're currently going to see as y'all come back on Monday. So everything that is in those little orangish yellow boxes, most of those parking lots, that is all going to be closed right now or within a few weeks. So we'll be starting on the biotech area building, and so you're going to basically be seeing lot 4D and 4E is going to close. So everybody that's kind of was used to parking back behind by the 4800 building, that will all be closed. And I'm not going to go over all the parking lots, but as you can see, we're really impacting the eastern portion of the campus. And we bring that up not only because of the construction work going there, but also remember that there will be deliveries and all those types of things. So as you're planning to come onto campus, just know that we are busily in construction. Yesterday, we poured 600 yards of concrete. So you're looking at 60 concrete trucks that are just continually cycling through the campus in that drive. So just be cognizant of that. And all you all that are on the west side of campus that think you're safe, we're coming to your neighborhood soon too. We've been starting and planning for the communication hub, Equity Village, and Student Center remodels. And so that construction project will be coming as soon as we kind of close up some of these areas. So just want to make sure everybody's cognizant of that. A little bit of self-service information. So we have a very robust website that you can actually go through and look at all the different information regarding our construction projects and is going on. So this first image is from our Independent Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. So we actually have a group of citizens that kind of help supervise and look over how we're expending the dollars and make sure that we're fulfilling the promise we made to our communities when we asked them for $455 million. So as you take a look at a couple of the highlights, you go to the meeting materials. We have bi-monthly meetings with the full committee, and then we have every other meeting month with also a finance subcommittee and a construction subcommittee. So all the notes, there's a PowerPoint there that gives an update on every single project, the timeline, the budget, all of that. So if you really wanted to keep up on that, please know that those are there. Also, as you take a look at the reports and publications, the annual ICBOC report is there. That's a report that we do annually to the community, and Kristen sends it out to everybody in the world so that they're aware of what we're doing and the progress that we're making. And also there's a link to a dashboard. And so this is a copy of the dashboard. So if you're really an accountant like me or you really enjoy numbers, this is the place to go. So this is the capital improvement dashboard, so you can actually take a look at projects as a whole so you can see where they're going. You can really disaggregate the data too. You can disaggregate it by site. So if you just want to see what's happening at CLC or Santa Leo or Oceanside, you can also do it by project. You can do it by construction type, whether it's a remodel or a new. So it'll really give you the opportunity to really look and focus in on the project that you'd like to know about or where things are without having to go through everything. We also, within there too, know that not only here, but we also have a financial dashboard and also a project biography dashboard that tells you about each one of the projects, what we're intending to do, and what we're trying to solve within those areas. And then my last portion is about student housing. So AB 165 was passed that provided $2 billion to provide student housing in higher education. Community colleges were promised 1/2 of that. So know that as soon as we found that out, we said, okay, we don't want to be able to apply for that. And there are two ways you could do it. You could apply for construction dollars if you already had a project that was in the works and ready to go. But many colleges hadn't had that, especially colleges that weren't fortunate to have bonds. So they also allocated a portion of that so that college districts could complete feasibility studies to take a look at, is there the need? Based off of what the need is, how do we go about doing it? So we started taking a look at that. We applied. We asked for $200,000. We will receive $150,000, I should say that. A lot of times the promise of money from the state supersedes the actual delivery of that money by sometimes years. But know that the check's in the mail according to the state, and so we're hoping to get that as we go through. But really looking to find out what our student needs are, and to support those needs and help them with retention and providing a cost-effective. So it's just not about building housing, it's providing cost-effective, affordable housing for our students. So we're in the process now of doing that feasibility study. We started it before we got the money, knowing that this was an important project. So just before summer, we actually did a student survey. 608 students responded to that survey, and so we're working on that. This semester, we'll be doing focus groups with the community and our students as well to take a look at what that is. Also taking a look at the financial analysis, and then also preliminary designs. But really that needs analysis is not just, okay, are you housing insecure or not? It's what does a student need? Is it a single house? Is it multi-bedroom? Is it a room for a student who has a family? So really taking a look at those needs, and also what services along with those needs would be, and then working with our community partners as well to assist us, and looking for locations where we may be able to go ahead and try to design that, and what the proper size and the number of units that we would need. So with that, I know it was very short. I'm trying to save a little bit of time here. I'm going to pass it off to Carl Banks, who's going to talk to us about Classified Senate.
Hello, everyone. Hello, MiraCosta. Yeah, okay, all right. All right, I'll hurry up. I'll be fast. So welcome to the fall semester. And I'll find the down arrow. Bam! Okay. I'm Carl Banks. I'm the Classified Senate President. I'm serving my last term, and so you too could be here next year. Okay, so we're looking for a replacement. I would like to introduce the Classified Senate for the upcoming year. Classified professionals, if you have not seen one of these people or received an email from them, please let me know. But we have new senators, Chelsea Chavira Verdun, woohoo! Shannon Tuisi, continuing senators, Angelina Bowles, Donnie Cummins, Gina Hansen, Omar Jimenez, Maria Isabel, Rocha Duarte, and Jacob Sneary. Yes. Our officers, the vice president is Ingrid Phillips, Marlisha Keys is the treasurer, and Karina Taylor is our secretary. Yes, and then advisors are Lori Schneider and Vanessa Di Benedetto. And so when you're new at something, you bring in a team, and I brought in Lori and Vanessa. Lori has served on every office on Classified Senate, and Vanessa was the immediate pass, and we make a good team, and thank you to them. Thank you to Classified Senate. I'd also like to thank every classified professional who signed up to sit on a committee or serve on a committee. Without that, we couldn't stand up there with our swag in the governance, in the accreditation on Section 4. So, yeah, thank you, classified professionals, for stepping up. We appreciate you. I would like to give a shout out to our classified professionals. Many of our classified professionals can't be here this morning because they're making final preparations to welcome back students, faculty, administrators. So thank you to our classified professionals. And whether you're student-facing or behind the scenes, we see you and we appreciate you. Next, I'd like to discuss our areas of focus. We've identified 3 for the upcoming year. The first area of focus is we're going to use the best practices of Caring Campus to create a welcoming environment for both students and classified professionals. Charlie talked a little bit about onboarding, but I don't think the onboarding should stop when they or our new employees, professionals, leave the meeting with HR. It continues on with Classified Senate, so there'll be a group working on that. Second area of focus is based on the results of the climate survey and the governance survey. We will be conducting workshops and sponsoring events to increase knowledge, answer questions on shared governance, district policies and procedures, the Classified Senate Committee itself, and the negotiations process. Also in that, we will be also really addressing heavily the whistleblower program and this idea and attacking the idea that if I speak up, I'm going to get fired. No, you're not, okay? And you won't suffer retaliation. I have Charlie's word, okay? Area focus 3 is to increase the engagement and participation of classified professionals through the use of social media platforms. After the first email I send this semester, I will be sending you videos. So you'll get a video and you will see me on the video and giving you the message. We've heard you, we've heard the feedback, something like, not another email, oh gosh. Or more dramatically, if I get another email, you fill in the blank, okay? So this committee will focus on bringing messages and content through social media. Okay, I got to put on my glasses for this because I should have just done 2 slides. So I'm very excited about the start of this semester. I'm looking forward to seeing you on campus and talking with you. For the past 2 years, I've been the virtual Classified Senate President. And a few reflections. I heard recently that it is likely that the first interaction a student has on campus is with a classified professional. That resonated with me. The last I saw at graduation was Sonny handing them a degree. That was awesome. But there are crucial interactions in the middle with you, the faculty. Associate faculty and full-time faculty, the Classified Senate, and classified professionals see you and appreciate you. The bottom line is that it takes all of us working to, Gosh, I forgot the big guys and gals. Board and administrators. I couldn't have planned that. You build and maintain the foundation and the infrastructure of the institution. The Classified Senate sees you and appreciates you. The bottom line is that it takes all of us working together to make MiraCosta work. And MiraCosta works well. Okay, I'm looking for people rolling their eyes right now. Or, like, yeah, right, okay, you don't know my supervisor or whatever. Well, okay. That leads me to my concluding comments, and that is one of my colleagues in the STEM Center preaches that we must have a proton mentality. If you're not a science nerd, then that's positive, okay? But there will be times when the electrons are like nipping at your heels and chasing you down, okay? And they'll try to overtake us. But if we can see and appreciate the good in one another, we can attempt to neutralize those little electrons and restore positivity. But the more positive you are, the more electrons are going to chase you. So I would just ask that we try to congregate with positive people ourselves. So, if you have a proton mentality, you connect with another proton and another proton, and protons are a lot larger than electrons, by the way. And eventually, I think you get the idea, okay? So, in closing, have the best semester, and I would like to introduce the incoming Academic Senate President, Layla Safaralian. Thank you.
20 years ago, in June 2002, the day after my graduation, I joined the math department at MiraCosta College. I was so proud and so grateful for my dream job. And today, after 20 years, I'm even more grateful and more proud to be part of this amazing institution. So my colleague, welcome to Fall 2022 at our amazing MiraCosta College. Here are amazing new and returning Academic Senate senators. We met last week in August 12, and we are ready to serve all faculty at MiraCosta College in academic and professional matters. They will connect with you early in September. The new senators are Kerry Mitchell, Professor Angela Beltran-Aguilar, Sean Firuzian, Don Love, and Candy Owens. And the returning senators are Robin Allen, Ingrid Burstow, Carla Cordero, Jim Julius, Dolores Liddell, Tyrone Nagai, Gilbert Neri, Brian Page, Hossein Rawanbakhsh, and Crystal Warren. Please join me in welcoming all new and returning Academic Senate senators. A heartfelt thank you. Don't do that, Luke. A heartfelt thank you to Dr. Luke Lara for his leadership as the Academic Senate President in 2020 through 2022. Your calm and collective leadership, what was we needed in the chaos of pandemic. Thank you, Dr. Lucara, for your leadership. Here are 9 Academic Senate subcommittees. Some of them, they have new leadership. Dr. Stacy Hall is going to be the new leader for the academic affairs. Our amazing Erin Roberts is the new PDP coordinator. What a great flex week they put together. Yes, please join me in thanking them. And Erin, we heard you. We were flexing. I barely fit into my jacket this morning. And my amazing friend and colleague, Dr. Violeta Sanchez, for putting together an amazing 11th Cultural Competency Conference. What a great conference. And I know personally that she was working hard since May to put this conference together. So let's thank the DEC committee. And we are very thankful to all faculty serving in all these committees. Thank you for your hard work. Here are faculty liaison for upcoming year 22-23. Jim Julius is OER Initiative Liaison, Dolores Liddell, CTE Liaison, and Scott Falstrom, Legislative Liaison. They are going to represent MiraCosta College statewide. Thank you for your hard work. Here are amazing colleagues that they were selected for statewide committees. Dr. Edward Pollard would be serving in Rising Scholars Faculty Advisory Committee, Maria Figueroa, Educational Policy Committee, and Dr. Adrian Askernis in Equity and Diversity Action Committee. Congratulations for your selection. As I mentioned last Friday on August 12th, the Academic Senate and the leadership of the 9 Academic Senate subcommittees, we got together. We had a 3-hour retreat to make sure we are ready to serve all faculty at MiraCosta College. We talked about our goals. We know that we are going to focus on teaching and learning, and we are going to continue this conversation in the future Academic Senate, and I will be providing more information about our goals. Speaking about teaching and learning, please mark your calendar for 5th Friday. This is September 30th. We are going to have a day a complete day focusing on teaching and learning, and this is going to be supported by the Academic Senate and guided pathways. So I'm going to provide more information as we get closer to this, but please mark your calendar and stay tuned. This summer, Professor Mary Gross, Faculty Assembly President, Krista Warren Yagubian, Academic Associate Faculty President, and myself, we were working very closely to make sure we are ready to serve all faculty at MiraCosta College. And we are going to continue our strong collaboration moving forward. So on behalf of Faculty Assembly, Associate Faculty Union, and the Academic Senate, wishing you a very productive fall semester full of great educational experiences. Thank you, everyone. The next part of the program is the best part of the program. You know why? Because we are going to hear from our students. So this summer, I had great opportunity to join 40 other faculties who attended the Light the Fire. It was during June 23rd and June 24th, facilitated by our amazing Dr. Tao Ha, Guided Pathways Faculty Co-Lead. It was inspired by the Equity-Focused California Guided Pathway work group, and there were 4 themes: liquid syllabus, student sense of belonging, skillabus, like syllabus, skillabus, and ungrading. It was so amazing to spend time with our faculty colleagues, and the timing was just right. You know, during the Flex Week, usually we get together, we exchange ideas, but it's kind of, you know, we already have our syllabus. I'm not sure if I want to go back and change it. But the timing for this institute was amazing. So we heard each other's ideas, and the most important thing was that we had 4 student panels. And today we are going to hear from our student panels. So we are going to take 5 minutes short break, and we are going to back here to hear from our students. And I want to let you know that PIO is going to send us these slides on Monday in MiraCosta. So with that, my dear colleagues, let's take 5 short minutes break, and let's come back here to hear our amazing students. Thank you, everyone. Okay, let's get seated and let's kick off this amazing student panel discussion. Let me introduce another amazing colleague, Sean Davis, the C3 Teaching and Learning Center coordinator, who's going to be part of this student panel and is going to facilitate this session. Help me to welcome him.
Hi, everybody. I don't really understand microphones in this context, so bear with me because I'm like looking out and I think I should be like yelling, but I'm gonna try to keep this level of my voice. So yeah, I'm the faculty coordinator of the C3 Teaching and Learning Center, just returning from a break. So I was fortunate enough to be part of this summer institute that Dr. Tauha organized, and I find that, you know, while learning is obviously always the focus for us, there's never a good time to do the professional learning events, right? We're like, oh, well, maybe a couple weeks in after things settle down, and they don't. And then Flex Week is robust and a lot, and there's a lot of tremendously good work that comes out of that, but it does feel rushed to the beginning of the semester and a little bit overwhelming. So I think we found this sweet spot with the end of the spring, which is a good time for reflecting on what just happened in your classes and what you want to do to improve. And so this 2-day, 2 long days, I think there were 8 hours apiece, yeah, Tom? And I think that it was the perfect time for us to have that reflection and do what we really love best about professional learning, which is learning from one another and our students, and being able to share practices, learn new practices, strategize how that's going to go. And we were able to do that with a diversity of perspectives from people all across many disciplines at the college and our various ACE student groups as well, who we're going to hear from today. And of course, the most compelling, most important, most powerful piece of those 2 days was hearing from the students, and I'm glad we get to replicate that in some form here today. So without further ado, I know we're crunched on time. Let's welcome the panelists and our student and faculty who are going to demonstrate what we're trying to accomplish this summer.
Thanks for the introduction, Sean. I'm Tauha. I teach in sociology, and that was the longest 5 minutes y'all ever took. We were just waiting for y'all to come back after 5 minutes. So we're going to speed through this. I had this long speech, but I'm not going to do it. So I was so inspired to do this institute from a Guided Pathways Faculty Institute conference. And the thing that we learned there, you know, about light the fire. What is that? What is that? All across the state and all across the county, schools are talking about how to ignite students' passions for studying, for learning, and ultimately, you know, their careers and getting that job, the job. And I came back and I asked our leadership team, can we do something in the summer? I know you think faculty don't work in the summer, but trust me, we do. And they said, sure. And we put the call out, and people came in person. And we spent 2 8-hour days really taking our time. So I am glad you took the longest 5 minutes that you needed to take, because it's okay to slow down and go through what we need to go through to get us where we need to go. And so we spent time listening to each other, learning from each other, dialoguing, rejecting some ideas, embracing other ideas, and giving us time to then actually put into place the work that we wanted to do, the changes we wanted to make in our syllabus, in our assignments, etc. And we did that with the feedback from our students in time, real life. So I invited some of them back to give you a taste of our conversation, along with our incredible colleagues, faculty who also attended and have some ideas to share with you about those 2 days. And we designed the panel as a conversation. So I have some questions. We're going to start with those, but we really encourage folks to just jump in as if we're having this huge, you know, moment of conversation. And we encourage you from the audience, if you want to say something, please do jump in. There's no Q&A after this, so speak now or forever hold your peace. And so I'm going to quickly let you all introduce yourselves and who you are, and then we'll get started.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Brewster, History Department. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ebony Koger, and I'm going on, I'm a student here. I'm going on my second year. I'm a little bit nervous, so bear with me. So I'm going on my second year. I'm a history major. I'm also a student ambassador here. So I do outreach for the college. I show the students all the resources that we have here. I also go to high schools, and I guide students through the whole application process, and I guide them through their way through MiraCosta. So my goals at MiraCosta is I want to transfer to Cal Poly Humboldt. I want to become a history professor. That's my goals. And yeah, I love MiraCosta. I love all the resources that it has to offer. So thank you, everyone.
Hello, everybody. My name is Allison Evers. I am a recent graduate from MiraCosta College with my associates in information technologies. So I just graduated in May, but I decided to, thank you. I'm a returning student. I started my journey many, many years ago and decided to come back and return and finish. And I am currently getting my certificate in e-commerce and web design. And I also was a student ambassador with Ebony.
Hi guys, my name is Raul Ragudo. I am a returning student from 1995. So I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot with the campus. I'm a returning student over and over, so I've worked with Premier Foods in the kitchen here and seen some old faces, so I'm glad to be on the panel. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Vanessa Rojas. I am in the transitions program. I am in recovery as well. I'm in reentry as well. I'm a survivor of domestic violence, substance abuse, generational trauma, and I'm grateful for second chances, and I'm grateful to have this opportunity to be a voice. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Serena Mercado, and I'm in the math department.
I'm Curry Mitchell. I'm in the letters department.
I'm Sean, and I'm more comfortable because I'm sitting with people now instead of standing there by myself.
Thanks, everyone. What an amazing, diverse group of MiraCostans. And we started off the panel with the very important document of the syllabus. And we wanted to honor the keynote speaker we had in January with an equity-minded, focused, and equity-minded syllabus. And what does that look like? And we heard this liquid syllabus as the thing that you do. And so at the end of the day, we were like, oh, the liquid syllabus is basically an online component of the instructor and the class and kind of things that students can get to learn about us before they even get into our classes. And so we wanted to ask the question to students, before the liquid syllabus was a thing, how'd you find out about your professors? We know about Rate My Professors, probably something you use. We were just curious what y'all think of Rate My Professor. Do you use it? Do you not use it? What other source of information? And why is it so important that you find out about your professor? There's no order. Just feel free to speak up.
So I'm pretty fortunate. So my tia is a counselor here, Candy Owens. I usually start off with that. So when I choose my classes, we sit down and so we go through my ed plan and we find out what classes I need to take. And so we write down what professors are available, what classes are available. We write down all the professors that are available. We go on Rate My Professor and we just look at all their ratings. And we're like, ooh, this professor has like 2 stars. Never mind. This professor has 4 stars. Let's read their ratings. Okay, they have homework. They don't have quizzes. Okay. They do a lot of textbook assignments. I can do textbooks. I do notes. Okay. Like just things like that. Okay. Let me ask people that I know if they've taken this class. And then just read through stuff. Okay. And then next class. Let's write down more professors. Like, I have notebook pages full of professors' names. And we're just going on rate my professors. Like, we've done that for, like, at least 3 hours, I think. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we've done that for a couple semesters. So that's usually the process when we're looking for my classes and my professors. So we do use Rate My Professor. And I don't know if I'm going to expose her, but she actually reads her own comments on her own rate. Yeah, no, on her own, like Rate My Professors. Like she'll search Candelaria Owens and like her own comments, and she's like, I know this person, and they only wrote this because I gave them they dropped my class, so yeah.
Yes, we do that, yes.
I gotta just say, Candy's like shaking her head. No, it's not agreeing to any of this.
Well, I will say that I have used Rate My Professor, but I do take it with a grain of salt because not every comment is true. I believe everyone has a different learning perspective. I have gone on there for an English class and saw a professor. I'm like, oh, they sound amazing. It was one of my hardest classes I've ever taken. So you definitely take it. Different people have different perspectives of classes, so don't take it for 100%.
For me, it's a word of mouth. And a lot of the times when I go to counselors, they actually tell me, hey, go in this direction. And so that kind of helps me out, and then I kind of filter out from there. But when it comes to a liquid syllabus, still today, I do not know what it is. I just asked my partner right here, do you know what a liquid? A week ago, I thought it was something else. A few months ago, is it something that just changes? Come on, I want to know. Does it change? Does a liquid syllabus change, or is it gonna dissolve?
No, thank you for asking that, Raul, because the liquid syllabus is this thing that we are being encouraged to do, which is to post our version of our syllabus online in a public way so that you don't have to wait to get into Canvas to see, or to get into the classroom to see what this class is going to be about.
Okay.
Right? So they call it liquid because you can change it really easily, you can update it real quickly, and so it's liquid, so it's flexible, but it's online.
So speaking on that, I think it gets us confused because now there's two syllabuses.
That's a good point.
Because now we actually get to see what you guys want to put in there. We see these little stories of who you are and little clips of, and it brings out your personality. That's great, but it does confuse us. Is it part of...
Maybe we should call it something else?
Is it part of the program? Is it part, or is it you? I mean,
No, we just talking about it right now,
it's all
Raul.
good. No. What I'm saying is is it part of the course? Is it part of what you're putting up? Should we retain that information? There's a lot going on in the syllabus. Yeah. Keeping it simple is very...
I think one way to think of a syllabus is it's a contract. And so you're signing up for a contract and we have that agreement. That's kind of maybe a traditional way to think of it, something that we're challenging right now. I think the liquid syllabus is more like an invitation. It's more like here's what you could expect, and does this course fit your goals and your routines this semester? Give you a chance to make the decision before we meet.
Yeah. Yes, Jim.
Can I ask a question related? So I'm curious about to what extent do you read the class notes in SURF in the schedule when you're looking for a class? The reason I ask that in this context specifically is there's a change coming in Title V that's directed at online classes, but it's going to give us an opportunity because it's requiring us to disclose a lot more information in the class schedule about online classes, like what technology platforms are required, what special meetings might be required, if you're required to do assignments off your computer but on your own. It's supposed to disclose that in the class schedule. So my guess is the way we're going to address that is we're going to give faculty the opportunity to provide a lot more detail or links to things like a liquid syllabus in SURF when you're looking at your classes. But will that be useful to you? Do you pay attention to that kind of stuff in the schedule?
Love to hear that. So maybe the takeaway is we want to do something up front before students get to class, but calling it a liquid syllabus could be very confusing. So thank you for that rule.
And I guess it's like a tone setter too, right? It's supposed to be what to expect and like what kind of feeling to expect before you even get to class, right? And introducing the instructor. And maybe it's to say, you know, all that stuff you read on Rate My Professor is wrong. I'm really a good person.
This is a true story. So classes start next week, and I sent an email to the students who were already enrolled in my class, and I said, hey, I'm looking forward to meeting you next week. Check out, you know, some information that you could learn about the class before you come. Here's my website. Click on the teaching tab. The next day, a student wrote me, was like, hi, I'm dropping your class, but I hope to get you in the future. And I was like, oh, I wonder if it's they saw something they didn't like, and that's okay. Because I would rather have that than they come to class next Tuesday and be like, oh, no, this is not for me, you know, whatever, her style, her assignments, or whatever, and then realize at that point they need to take another class. So they're doing that this week, and that's helpful. So that's something real life.
I'm going to go back to the original question before I make a comment on that. So the Rate My Professor, I have probably looked at it, but to honestly answer that question, I don't use Rate My Professor. What I do is I'm really big on networking. So I reach out to and I've been very fortunate and blessed to have some amazing professors, Professor Nagai, Professor Tal, Professor Mathis, Professor Malcolm Warfield. Let's see, who else? Yeah, well,
All of you guys.
yeah, but I mean, for myself, you know, I'm not saying you all are not great professors, but I've been very blessed to have really amazing professors. And so I'm looking for professors that are transitions program allies. And reaching out to my professors when I'm taking classes, I've been recommended to go with this professor because this professor is an ally, this professor fits your learning style. And so that's what I do when I sign up for classes. I look for professors that are transition allies that I guess would be more understanding of our background. And in regards to the syllabus, I am the type of person that I read through everything thoroughly. So the more information I get, it suits me better. So like, I'm actually excited about the liquid syllabus.
I'm opposite, guys. Okay? Totally opposite. Tell me the time, don't build me the clock. Okay? Let's go.
One thing I noticed when we were listening to our students' responses in the conference was that it was kind of all over the place. There are students that read every single word that you put out there, and there's other students that I skim it, I look for the important things, how are you going to grade? Some of them were talking about they use my professor, and some of them don't. The unfortunate thing is that one thing that I gathered was they don't really understand if they're going to have a good relationship with the teacher until they're actually in the class. No matter what comments they read or what their friends say, like Curry could say, oh, he was my favorite person ever, and I go in the class and I'm like, oh, wow, no, this is like I'm falling asleep every day. And unfortunately, it's almost like too late at that point for the students because they don't really get the feeling on how the class is going to be until they're like 2 weeks in. And then unfortunately, like other classes are filled up, they're already in the class, then it's like hard to do anything, and then they kind of feel like they're stuck. So I think that's kind of a problem that hopefully there is a way to address.
That's a good one.
I'll answer that if nobody else wants to go. Okay. One thing that I can say that helped me with my professors was I felt like there had to be a connection. And to be honest, like going into intro into administrative justice, I ended up finding out that that professor was actually an ex-police officer who works for, he had been a police officer for 17 years. So I was really apprehensive about even like asking questions and speaking up because, you know, I come from like a whole different background than him. So in my eyes, and it's changed since then, in my eyes, he was my enemy. So what brought me to feel connected to him was he works with youth that tend to get in trouble. And that's like one of the things that I want to do. So I was able to, okay, you know what, he can't be that bad. He's trying to do something, you know, trying to stop people from going in the path that I went into. So that like opened up a whole world for me, actually, in how I see people and how, I guess, having prejudgments. So I think that for myself, finding something to connect with your professor is so crucial to being able to communicate with them properly and speaking up. So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, during our session in June, we asked the students how many of them watched the welcome videos or those little short videos we work hard on. And some of them said, I never watch them. I would never waste my time. And some of them said, I watch every single one and they're very, very helpful to me. So that was just a good clarification for me because I didn't know if I wanted to invest the time, but I realized some people really, really want them and some people will absolutely ignore them, but I still need to do them for those people that do use them and want them. So it was very helpful to me to hear from them.
One of the things I heard you say is my professors make recommendations, and I think we're all, I don't want to say guilty of this because we love our friends, so we're like, ooh, go take so-and-so's class, they're so good. But sometimes our perception of what makes them good is really founded in our love for them as a human, our experiences with them on committees, how fun they are at lunch or after events like this, and we haven't always ever actually seen them teach. We haven't actually maybe been into their classrooms. We don't get a lot of opportunities as faculty members to go observe our colleagues in other disciplines, like as they're doing their thing. Maybe we've popped into one of their online classes, but I guess I would say that when we make recommendations, it comes from a really student-centered place. We love you, and we want you to love your other classes, and we want you to have a similar experience. But I think in service to our students, we could do a better job watching each other teach and learning a little bit more about what actually goes on in other people's classrooms so that we're not just making recommendations because we love them, but we're making recommendations because we understand actually what happens in their classroom, and we have a little bit more knowledge about what that experience will be like for the students. And I say that because I come from non-credit. So I want all my students to transition and to be credit students. And when they come to a different campus or they enroll in a different class, I want their experience to be as fulfilling and as community-based as what maybe they've come to expect from taking courses at the CLC. And I'm almost always pleasantly rewarded with feedback from our students. But I do think we could do a better job working on behalf of our students by understanding better what our colleagues do in their classrooms.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you. Well, then, you know, whether it's before you come to class or now you're in class and you're presented with a syllabus and you're presented with now the instructor and their vibe and their work and the relationship that you think that you can or cannot have with them, I want to really put a positive spin to this conversation and ask you, you know, have there been things that you experienced with instructors in the classroom or in the syllabus, just reading it itself, or the ways that they've communicated with you through that document that made you feel good about yourself, good about the class, confident that you could succeed? You know, what can give us examples of things we should be putting in our syllabus or that we should be doing in the classroom that light your fire?
I like the syllabuses that everybody has. It brings out personality. It brings too much. There's sometimes for me, myself, I'm an SAS student. Even though I have a lot going on at home, I don't want to spend all my time looking through a syllabus and finding out what one person is about. And that's kind of hard because it helps me want to learn about that and what's their learning strategies and stuff, and if I'm compatible with it. But I'm already exhausting a lot of time into it. So now I'm going into classrooms, and like we heard, it just kind of, oh, now we're stuck with it. I can't answer that question, to be honest, because at that point, we're actually now having to go forward. And now it's our challenge. Now we're having to gain, momentum on how we can finish the class right. So I guess now it's just about having fun and interacting like we've heard. I think it's for me as a student, as a SAS student, I've had professors reach out constantly and say, hey, can you take this test at us somewhere else? Like, offer, just say, hey, here's a flag, you need it? And I'm like, I'm on it. I didn't need that one before, but it's there. So I think the person interacting one-on-one with the student, I know that's a lot. You guys, I got to give it to you. Hats off to y'all, man, for even having, many students. And for me, I'm needy, okay? I am needy, and I need to be on, hey, can you answer my emails promptly? And you guys probably get flooded with so much of those, but there's a lot of us that are really needing a constant contact. So that's important. Thank you.
Okay, so in regards to the syllabus, I do want to acknowledge that Professor Ha's syllabus is very thorough. And her class, I took her class, it was an online class. She gave examples. She had us post on the discussion board and actually comment on other posts. I think that's important, especially for online classes, just to keep the interaction so you don't feel so isolated. But I have had other online classes where I would say, not other, just another one where it wasn't so thorough and it left gaps of information where I had to figure it out for myself. And I don't have a background in technology, so learning how to navigate that, I'm a beginner actually, was very difficult. And had it not been for my daughter, I probably would have failed that class. Just her showing me how to connect the dots in the technology, and in some instances, she had to do something because it wasn't coming through right. The way I was trying to submit it, it just wasn't going through right. And thank God she's a genius and stuff like that. And so I was able to, it was my work, but she helped me with the technology portion on how to submit the assignments and do other things that way. But in regards to the syllabus, I feel it's very important to be thorough and efficient in how it's set up and give examples and definitely have that discussion board. I think that's very important for me.
I think something really traditional is kind of this idea of it's in the syllabus and that being a common response and go check that out. And that makes me think about something I actually heard from our colleague here, Dr. Bruce Hoskins. He had a podcast where he was talking about how a student will reach out and email and say, look, I'm going to miss class, or I missed class. What did I miss? And I got to admit, I've been annoyed by that email. And I've been like, well, you missed everything, right? And what is the expectation here that I fill you in at this time and all of that? And then, Bruce was like, well, they're taking the time to email you. They're actually reaching out and saying this, that already takes something, right? And that shows a level of concern and a level of commitment to your class. And that totally changed my thinking on it. And I just, instead of just sending them a link to go look at something, I take the time and respond to them as I would in person, and try to show that compassion because they are showing me something,
Thank you for that, because that's what we do get a lot of the time, and it's a generic question to the entire class. Look at the syllabus, and then some of us, okay, we can catch on to the syllabus, but like some of us, we wouldn't.
Allison, Ebony, I think I saw you move. Do you want to say something?
Well, I was going to say in the beginning of my studies at MiraCosta, I was not one to ever read a syllabus. But then when the last couple semesters, it's the first thing I do. I've been waiting all week for my professors to post the classes on Canvas and to be able to start reading those syllabi so that I'm ready on Monday. I'm ready to go. The the one thing I noticed, and it always gives me anxiety, which I don't know why, but when it says absolutely no late work in capitals, and you're like, oh my gosh, it gives me anxiety off the bat. And I've never turned in late work. Why am I nervous about this? But it's because it's like an absolute. And I feel that in a student of during this time, it's difficult. There's lots of things that happen in my life and my other classmates. You know, it's a different time, and I know we keep saying that, but it is. So things come up, and so when that absolutely no late work, it does give me anxiety. So I have noticed that in the syllabi in the last couple years, and it always gives me a little anxiety when I see that.
For someone who's never turned in late work.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
I have a quick comment to add to that. I feel that the class recordings are very, very important as well, because I've found that I've had to go back to those class recordings to get information that maybe I missed the first time. So the class recordings and the open hours, I guess, for like professors, you know, where you can like email them and set up a Zoom appointment. I think that's important too, because you can have that one-on-one with them and kind of explain what you're struggling with. And I feel that that should be accessible to everybody.
I've actually had 2 professors in my time here that were not flexible even with office hours. So it was hard to communicate with those professors. I know office hours are required for professors, but I had one who would not meet me at all. He only did, I think it was like text or something through Canvas, and made it really hard to even tell what I was struggling with. It was a class that I really wanted to take. Actually, it was a fun class. It wasn't even towards my major. I thought it would improve my major, but it wasn't a requirement for me. So that's why it was even more challenging, because I'm like, wait, I'm trying to take this to improve my life skills. I chose to take this instead of having to take it for my degree. And I'm struggling, and there's no way for me to get out of this and figure it out. And so I had to drop the class, and I was really sad about that, because I still really want to take the class, but they're the only professor that teaches it that would work for me. So having those hours of the office hours available, and I agree with the rewatching of the classes, because I have to do that multiple times. So it takes me sometimes double the time to learn the material, because I'm rewatching the videos. I take very detailed notes, so pausing, the video, it will sometimes take me 3 times as long to watch it. So, but yeah, office hours are so important.
Yeah, I was just going to add, when I did the training for the equity-minded syllabus, I realized that I had used boilerplate syllabus language from years ago, and I realized the tone was very authoritarian, and I could see how that could be very off-putting for someone reading that. So that's the first thing I did for the idea of a liquid syllabus, is change my tone, and I made it more casual. I just think about how, Foucault says that power dynamics are in the most minute interactions. And even in the syllabus, I can already be communicating that I'm up here, you're down there, and you listen to me kind of tone. And so I just really went through, and I had to change all the boilerplate stuff.
Where did that come from? Because I think I'm guilty of that.
I think it was passed around for years.
Why are we embracing and using and replicating this oppressive language that puts fear in our students?
I'd like to answer. I respect the tradition of deadlines. It's got to happen in college. We have to keep that. And if we're going to carry on to the next college, we need to be prepared for that. That is so, we got to. I see a lot of fluff with us. I mean, again, I've been here since '95, and I've seen it trends. It's moved in a way now that is, the kids are on it. They're more smarter than the teachers sometimes. I don't want to say it like that, but they're savvy, and and I'm learning from my classmates. So that's important, and at that time right there, so I'm like, okay, I'm getting derailed right now, but.
So I think it's the absolute deadline that we're questioning. And so like the 5 minutes that everybody got, but the 15 minutes that we accommodated, which as you said, we need to slow down, we need to take our time. 5 minutes is not enough. And so I think it's so Tao, I think I had that language in my syllabus because when I first started teaching, I needed a syllabus. And I wasn't going to just write one from scratch my first time teaching. Folks helped me, right? So we've got this language that we just keep using. And then, but then I guess, Raul, my question is, what about, I agree with you, deadlines really matter. In a writing class, deadlines matter because we need time to see the language and share, have audience and be able to revise. And if there's no deadline, we never get that chance. But what about deadlines with accommodations or deadlines with affordances for, this is happening, circumstantial kind of, what do you think?
I had some personal experience. My mother had been in the hospital, my children, everything just turned upside down, obviously, COVID. And my instructor was I was transparent. So it has to deal with the student as well. And it shouldn't rely always on you as an instructor as well. So it's our responsibility to actually give you, that as much. So we're kind of on a fence here.
Yeah, and so the language in the syllabus, I guess what I'm grappling with is I want students to know deadlines matter in a writing class. But at the same time, I want to say, and life might happen, so, you know what I mean? And so, like, how do we not waffle, but, like, say that?
Like I said, I can take it. I can take it, hey, this is what it is. Yeah. Okay, but I can understand,
But then Allison will be like, oh, good. I'll never miss a deadline. But just in case I do, there's some flexibility.
I think it's important also to just make sure you have the connection with your students so that they feel comfortable talking to you and explaining the situation they're going through. Yeah. So, I mean, we are adults, so we do have lives. It's not like we're kids and we're just got to worry about school. We have things going on at home, and for myself, I have a disabled daughter that I take care of full time and a bunch of other stuff going on at home. And had it not been for me feeling comfortable enough to communicate that with my professors, I probably would have given up, so I think that's important. And I feel that the goal here is to make sure that all students succeed. And when your students succeed, that means you're being successful as a professor. So I'm hoping that everybody takes that into consideration. It shouldn't just be about a paycheck, and I'm not saying that it is, but I feel most professors are in it because they love to teach. And if your student is not succeeding, that kind of reflects on the professor. Without offense, and I do say this respectfully. Okay.
No, absolutely. And I think that as we see, there's a diversity of ways that the students view this. And I think it's okay and maybe even important to maintain a diversity of instruction. And I think that that's an important lesson in that different workplaces, different supervisors, different businesses, different situations in life, families, individuals, you're going to encounter people that try to do the same thing in a different way. And as long as it is not overly oppressive or it's harmful, I don't think anybody's out with that, but I think when people are a little more rigid, they're preparing people in the way they think is best. And I think when people are a little more lenient, maybe that speaks to their experience. So I think maintaining a diversity of instruction is, it should be a priority along with, the equity goals that we have in the work that we do.
Well, across disciplines, that matters too, right? Like deadlines in a math class is way different than deadlines in a writing class. Yeah. When you've created an exam for a very specific situation instead of students versus an essay that we're all writing in individual ways. And so that needs to be considered as well too. Yeah. And it's important.
And I will say with having those deadlines, it was so helpful when a professor would tell the class that there are places to help you. So for example, I was struggling with something in my computer science class. Well, they told us about the STEM Center and the hours and that it's available online because I did all of my classes during that semester online, as well as having what my English class had a full-time assistant who was able to meet with us outside of class and go over our essays and help us in that way. So even though we had deadlines, we had the help that was needed if we were so close to not meeting those deadlines. If you spend a little time personally and worked on that with those resources, and that's what I think is so important at MiraCosta is sharing those resources for even if you don't need them, they might know somebody who does. So sharing those outlets that are available.
Yeah, and I'm hearing this theme of like the importance of the connection with the instructor and feeling that you in some way belong or are comfortable reaching out, or when they reach out, that you can feel comfortable responding. And so I'm going to progress us to the sense of belonging, right, which was the other theme of the conference. And in the resources that we provided, there was a lot of research on giving students an opportunity to talk about themselves or share about themselves in the classroom, whether you're in math class or a writing class or a criminal justice class, just allowing students to talk about their experiences so that they can see that there are other students who may be similar to them and finding belonging. So I'm very curious as we move into this notion of like sense of belonging and feeling welcome. You alluded to the professors and how, you know, their tone, their vibe and whatnot, and things that are in the syllabus. Are there other ways that you might want to share with us how you've felt like, yeah, this feels really good to be on this campus or in this class, so that we can have these takeaways and either add them to our classes or doing something on campus? What are some things that make you feel like you really belong here? You want to start, Ebony?
Oh my God. So what makes me feel like I belong is just having like one-on-one conversations with my professors. When professors just like, when they just ask like personal like little questions to the class. When they relate to students. Yeah, I really like when they just speak from the heart to the class.
Do you like learning personal things about your, like personal life stuff
do.
about your professors?
I do, when they can just like go on and on about themselves. I love stories like that. Not just because it takes away from the class, but but because I'm nosy and I like hearing stories.
It's because you want to be one of us.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right. That's right.
Exactly.
But then does that make you feel like, okay, now I feel good. I can, okay, I've heard enough about myself. Let's get to the class.
Yeah.
So now you're like, okay, let's dive in.
Yeah, but don't go on and on and on. Like, yeah. Just get to the point and then, yeah. But I do like the feeling of belonging. And like our Welcome Fest, I thought that was really cool that we have, because it was like, welcome to MiraCosta. And I thought a lot of, like, our students did feel welcome. And so that was like a feeling of belonging, like they felt here. So I think students like that feeling. And it encourages them to come to college.
I definitely agree. As much as I thought it was silly that Professor Casoni kept talking about his tomatoes in his garden, I really enjoyed listening about his life, and he liked that he shared that with us. I also really enjoyed a lot of professors took the time to ask how we were doing. We went around on Zoom, to each student. Are you doing okay this week? How are you feeling? Anything going on in your life that you want to share with us? I felt like, it's this cozy, touchy-feely session, but it was amazing. I didn't realize how much I needed that.
And that was a tech class, right? A technology?
Yeah, it was in a different tech class, but yes. Also, I really liked how, Professor Walker said, if you really like computer science, why don't you join the club, computer science club,
That's real dope.
or Club IT. I ended up being in Club IT the entire time I was here. I really enjoyed it. Those clubs are clubs with people who might not necessarily be in your class, but they enjoy the same subject as you. So I think that joining clubs, and then I was also encouraged to join ASG. So I was a senator for the CLC last semester. I really enjoyed that. I would have never done that in high school. It's not my thing, student government. I would have never been part of that. But it got me out of my shell. I learned new people. I learned new things, and I thought that was a great experience. Made me feel welcome.
What she said. That's me. I'm a part of the chess program for the last year. I've actually competed with the chess program. I love it. I'm part of the MANA program, and I rock with the MANA program. We had a cohort with Pacific Studies from a professor that traveled from LA, and he came down and he stayed with us even on the days he didn't have to. That right there gave me something to connect to. I'm Hawaiian, all of this. I'm this, I'm that, I'm all of that. But when I had something in my culture and I can actually even go to a class and learn with that, dude, it blossomed. Everybody showed up. Everybody was on point. Everybody was on fire. I'm also a transition student. I'm also part of the program for the first cohort 2 years ago. Last year, I believe. So just to even grow with that community and come from English 100, we all get to build together. Look at what we're actually not advocating. We're in the city. We're not just in here, okay, guys? We're actually in the city. We're on the field. We're in with the field out there with transitions, with MANA program, with the chess program. And who does that represent? MiraCosta. This isn't just chess program of who or, no, it's MiraCosta's program. And that is dope because I'm now a volunteer for Oceanside Pop Warner, do resilience. We're connected, even through our programs with Coach Keeley, who does our rugby program. So it's sustainability. I'm like turned on about sustainability.
When are you in class?
I'm actually getting told to go to class by some of ours.
That's why you're not reading that syllabus.
You ain't got time to read the syllabus. Jeez.
I love it. And this is all MiraCosta. I'm glad to ride with MiraCosta. This is what it's about. And this is our family. We have a lot of there. So.
For myself, when I was in prison, I had made up my mind that I wanted to go back to school. And I was thinking there's got to be some kind of program that supports formerly incarcerated people. And by a weird, information always falls on my lap. And I ended up finding a flyer at the halfway house in the corner, tucked underneath all kinds of stuff, of a program in San Diego. And when I reached out to them, they said that MiraCosta and Palmer has one. So I reached out as soon as I could. And I'm telling you, the transitions program has been life-changing for me with all the support and everything. And so I actually promote this program to everybody I know. And more people are getting out of prison. Laws are changing. There's going to be more of us coming, and there's so much hidden talent and potential behind those concrete walls. And what's amazing about this program is we are like a community. We support each other. Where one's struggling, the other one, we're all trying to build, help each other succeed. And that's important. And that's what I feel that this program, there's a sense of family. We are so tight. We're so connected. You're going to see this program, people in this program go really far. And I say this because when I was in prison, I had one family crisis after another. At one point, I thought I was not going to have a family to come home to. And how I dealt with that, I'm sorry, guys. I tend to get emotional when I talk about this. How I dealt with that was I would go out in the track, in the yard, when they had yard time, and I would run. I would run, and I would get so tired. And I just didn't want to be up at night crying and thinking about a problem at home that I had no control and no way to help. So I would run to the point of exhaustion. And what kept me going, even though I was tired, I would keep in my mind that if I had to run home right now, because I was in FCI Tallahassee, Florida, if I had to run home right now, would I get tired and stop going? Nope. I would keep going. I would keep going. And I keep that same mentality when it comes to school, when it comes to problems I have in life, the challenges. I have to keep going. I have to keep going. So you're going to find that a lot of students in the transitions program, thank you. You'll find that a lot of students in the transitions program have been to such dark places in their life that the average person will never get to see. And because we've been there, we want more out of life. We want a bigger life. We try harder. So that's kind of what I have to say about transitions.
And there were 3 transition students on a panel at the same time, and it was so impressive and amazing that the bond that they had between each other, that they're not willing to let each other fail. Like if they see someone struggling, they were talking about if somebody didn't show up in class, or if somebody was starting talking about like drifting away, they're all there for each other, and they're going to call each other up, they're hitting each other up, they're like pulling them out of wherever they need to pull them out of, and it's really amazing the bond that they have.
So, faculty, like, what are some ways that you think you do well or want to do in building that sense of welcome and community, either in your syllabus, in your class, little tidbits that they gave us? What are we doing? And anyone in the audience wants to share too. Yes, Nathan? Sure.
Oh, thank you. To connect with students, and they share about themselves in the classroom. We had a workshop on Friday about faculty boundaries with students, and some mental health counselors were there. Thank you, Abby. And the question came up, like, when do you overshare with students, and how does that impact you as a student? So my question is, what things do you not want to hear from faculty with personal share? Because that can impact you as a student.
I'm sorry, what was the question again? What is...
When faculty are sharing their personal lives with you as a way to connect with you as a student, there's a risk of maybe sharing information that maybe you didn't want to hear, or that could reduce your confidence.
In other words, TMI? Is there a point where it's TMI?
Yeah.
Too much information from your professors? Anything?
Nothing that I can think of.
I'm an open book. I like to be as transparent, and you see everything is what you get. And
you're
I don't
okay
know.
with that?
Some people are very sheltered, and we can understand that. Some students I've seen don't want to have their shell cracked, and I don't know. That's really hard to. I can't speak for that really.
I'm fairly transparent. There's some things that I don't talk about, which probably are the dark places that I've been to. But I'm working on a memoir, so you'll probably read about it. But I feel that every day is a lesson, and maybe what you might be guarded in sharing might be a lesson for somebody who maybe struggle with the same thing. And maybe if you have that open communication about yourself, I mean, of course, all of us have secrets, but I look at every day as a lesson. So when I interact with people, I'm always looking for what's the lesson in it. Even if it's somebody I don't necessarily, I'm not going to say care for. I don't like their certain behaviors. There's always a lesson in it. So I'm always open to the lesson. So I'm a active listener.
I can try to get close. With some of you're in business, and if you were to relate something to business and yourself, I think it brings out something, personal, and it kind of opens up maybe a student to be personal too. Where most of the time I see teachers, and is this really their passion? Are they really into the thing that they're teaching, or are they just shooting the shit, just shooting off of a text? And I think when we hear, things that that conflict with life or your personal experience, it kind of draws us in, like, oh, that brings me to my family. Oh, we've gone through business situations like that, and we're going through that right now. So I think that's, maybe just something there.
Also take in mind that some of us have been through trauma. So some things might be triggering. So I think it would be like kind of getting a feel of where we come from.
I think that all students, just like all of us, are different, and some people feel more comfortable sharing. One practice that I've been doing recently, because I've only been teaching online the last couple of years, I try to make a really thorough introduction video and encourage all the students to do the same. But then I know that students, a lot of them don't feel comfortable making videos and saying everything out there that everyone else is going to see. So then I also have like a separate student survey where I ask them questions, like if there's anything you want to share with me that you think I need to know, or I try to ask them leading questions, but then these are they're not anonymous because I know they're coming from the student, but the other students aren't going to see it. Mm-hmm. So that way you don't have to put it on blast, whatever it is that you're going through. But we want to know if there's more we can do to try to reach out, especially in that type of situation where we're not In the classroom, it's easier to form a bond with the students when we're seeing them all the time. Even on Zoom, they're seeing our face, but it's a lot harder to make a connection when you're teaching just online. So if there's anything that your instructors have done in your online classes that made you feel a little closer.
I don't want to be the only one talking, but I have to share about Professor Nagai real quick. So Professor Nagai is so unique. He immediately when we had our first Zoom meeting, he made it clear that no question is a dumb question. So that was so important because that like opened the door for people who might have been intimidated and might have had their guard up to just, okay, I'm going to go ahead and ask.
Mind you, we're a bunch of prison guys in this classroom, okay? All of us are convicts, and we're thinking that we're going to kidnap this guy right now. This isn't going to be his classroom no more. We're going to take this over. And he navigated through like 15 of us, drug addicted, and it was great. And so it's about, just blending with your students and knowing what they're there for.
And also helping build their confidence because I think it's important that within each other, we're always like trying to build each other up, so I think it's important hearing from your professor, you did a good job, it kind of gives you the fuel to like try harder.
And I appreciate the survey. That question, is there anything you need to know, is very helpful. I encourage every professor to do that. My father was in the hospital last semester for over a month and was not expected to leave the hospital. He did make the full recovery, which I'm very blessed for that. But that was hard. Even I try to put it out of my mind and concentrate on school. You can't always do that. So having the opportunity to share things like that with your professor is very helpful.
Well, I could think of a lot of things I don't want to share. So I don't know. I think everybody uses their own discretion. But I want to say that, the recording piece, I think when it's like straight up instructional, like this is what we're talking about, these terms, these theories, here are these examples. But I teach intro to LGBT studies. I teach intro to gender studies. And sometimes on Zoom and in the classroom, but on Zoom, particularly where you have that opportunity to record, there's sessions that I don't record because we may get deep, Sure. People are taking that class, some are taking it for requirements, some are taking it as an elective, some are taking it because they need to know more about what they've been going through. And I think it's important to not have that live somewhere forever when we have some of those discussions.
Yeah, and just explaining that to students prior. It's not always about what we're asking students to do, but we explain why we're asking them to do that. And I think students are very appreciative of the why, and then that's when they feel like, oh, okay, I can get that. I can get that. So thanks for sharing that, Sean. And I am trying to be very mindful of our time. I know it's like lunchtime. My stomach's growling. I don't know if you heard it, but I'm just going to frame myself as intermittent fasting and that it's good for my body right now. So I do want to make note that in our accreditation report, there were multiple references to our student learning outcomes, the course ones and the program ones, and we got some work to do. And so in the history for, our college history for our students, on your syllabus, you see the student learning outcomes, and it's like the student will do this, and the student will be able to do that after you finish taking the class. And so I think this is a good time to talk about when you're taking a course and you're seeing these objectives or these things you're going to learn, how can we take information from you so when we're creating or editing or revising or revisiting the ones that we've already made, how can we make them better? And this is a pitch for the session on the Skillibus, which is how can we create student learning outcomes that show students the skills that they are learning in the class that are work transferable, job related, career related, degree related, and so we're curious in terms of, when you're taking a class, a lot of times you might know why you're taking the class, and then other times you might be like, I don't know why, I guess this is just a requirement, so I got to take it. What's your sense of like faculty being more explicit, transparent with the kind of things that you're going to learn and how we can make it in a way where you realize, oh, these are the things that could help me in my life or in my job, no matter what my career is?
Just being straight up, like, because in the class, you're just going through the units and, like, the topics. And in the syllabus, it does say, like, the like, student learning outcome. But a lot of professors don't really go through that, and students just skim through it, like we said. And some students do. And in the final, like, we do have to go through what we learned, and, you know, we do understand it. But I think professors do need to be, like, straight up, like, you guys need to understand it. Like, just have a discussion of what, like, just summarize the whole class entirely, a group discussion. And you can also have that in the Canvas. Just, what's it called, like a module for it. Just have like a group, can't you do that? Yeah, and just something like that. And it would be cool. I think just be just straight up. That's, yeah.
I've appreciated in some of my classes where the learning outcomes were related to real life scenarios. Like you'll use this in life every day for this, or in your career working with computers, you'll use this to do whatever it was. I appreciated that from my classes because then I'm like, oh, okay, this is why I'm learning this. I'll retain this information for my future career. So I appreciated it when they had that, especially my personal finance class. I had no idea what I was getting into. It was pretty intense, but then I'm like, oh, now I can figure out why, my percentage towards my, home mortgage and different loans and my college loan that I'll be getting soon for my bachelor's degree and things like that. So it was nice to relate that to real life situations.
I like taking the test after a syllabus. There's a clever thing where we're reading through the syllabus and we're having to take the little quiz. And I think that is really clever because it lets our professors know what we're not catching and what we are. And then we can come together, like we heard, and go over the syllabus together. And I've been in a lot of, classes, and that's where majority are gathering around is the syllabus. So I like the tests, the quizzes.
For myself, what I liked is like the workshops. So they weren't like always related to what was on the syllabus, but it gives you an idea of what else is out there. The guest speakers that we had, and I think, okay, so like one of the classes I took was communications with Professor Doc Hastings, and her class was so fun because she's so animated in her recordings. And I was always questioning, why am I taking this class? But in her little like videos that she would post that we would have to watch as part of our assignments, it kind of plants the seeds for other ideas of like what direction you want to go to. And I also think it's important that the professors, I feel, are in a unique position to see our potential. And a lot of us don't know what we want to do. Like we're going in this without really any direction. We just kind of are just, when I first came in, I wasn't sure what direction I was going, but then, oh, you'd be good at this, or I think you're good at this. So that kind of like plants seeds in what direction we should go.
So I'm curious on our faculty group, have you thought about the learning outcomes yet? Now we're revisiting, we saw the accreditation language, where are we at with thinking about our learning outcomes?
We're thinking a lot about learning outcomes in the letters department, and we're really thinking about skills. It's particularly tied to writing. I'm thinking of one particular course, English 100, and just the kind of writing we're looking for. So claims, supported by logic, tied together in some kind of cohesive way. From the Light the Fire Institute, one of the things I gained was just kind of a presentation on different careers, different skill sets that are tied to those careers, and then just being mindful of, in a general education course where a lot of different career paths are come through, just how those tie together. And I haven't fully wrapped my head around that, but since then it's been on my mind. But one more thing I'll say about SLOs and the way we're thinking about it is we're mindful of skills, but we're also mindful of the affective. So that, and by affective, I just mean that everything that comes with building skills, like thinking about, like, where am I being challenged? How am I growing? What do I want to do with this, right? What are the circumstances that I can't control, but I have to somehow kind of navigate this class anyway? So in our slows, we're trying to think about, okay, if we want to create a paragraph that to someone else makes sense because it's supported by evidence, well, we need to think about the audience who's going to read that, because something that's impressive to me, like this scholarly source, might not be impressive to someone else because they don't give a shit about scholarly sources, whatever that may be, right? And so that kind of process of, here's a skill, but what's everything that goes around it that gets us to that skill? That's how we're trying to think about slows, so that it's not just ticking boxes, the skill is there. It's not. It's more, how does this inform our learning? How does this like encourage us to, you know, meet with our students, encourage that reflection?
Yeah.
In an attempt to kind of put that all together, like, again, being straight up about what is the objective here and how is it tied to things that I can use, and then with general education and what Pathways is trying to accomplish is making the dots and how they connect clear rather than relying on students taking a bunch of general ed classes and connecting those dots for themselves, right? They may take an anthropology class, then a sociology class and say, oh, they both talk about culture, but they talk about it in different ways, and these are the kinds of jobs that come out of that. And instead of letting students figure that out and then the job comes at the end, kind of, you know, telling them this is this job and this is how skills from that class relate to skills in this class, and if you put those together, you'll have a better view of this particular career path. And I think that's what, you know, you were trying to say in the beginning is like, can we have a discussion about that and really get to what the point of this class is and what the material can do to help me in my everyday life and eventual career.
Yeah, I have a question for Ebony, and then maybe you can chime in too, Michelle, because you're in history. This notion that, okay, you said early on you wanted to be a history professor, and I want to applaud that. Has there ever been a moment where you were in a conversation with a professor or anyone on campus or anywhere that says, what else can you do with history? What else is out there? If you love history and your parents are like, what are you going to do with that? What else has that conversation emerged?
So this is the same question we had last time at our last student panel. And our career center helps a lot. And I still haven't made an appointment with that counselor, and I should. But I actually went home and I said, jobs I can get with an AA degree in history. And I can actually do a lot. So there's a couple that I can do, but it's still like not jobs that I would want to do, but because they're just not good paying jobs. And I would rather be in school, would rather go for the higher degrees. But I have looked into it, and I still want to go into that career center. And like he was saying, we can get together, talk about what all those general ed classes do for us, and then go to that career center and then see what they help us for. So, yeah.
Christopher Sleeper and I, Rob Bond, we were on a panel. It was last academic year, and I think a lot of you might have done that too, where students came on Zoom to meet us to talk about career paths. So we did that. Another thing is when I teach on site, excuse me, I always map out how to create an evidence-based argument in the writing, and I'm always trying to explain that even in a text or even in an email or any kind of professional writing, that the skills that they're gaining in a history class are applicable to anything and everything. And I also show them that how you write an argument in history would apply even if you were writing it for biology or any field. So I think that's just part of my teaching process, is to show the applicability of everything we're doing to other fields. And then if I have people interested in history, and I know I have history majors sometimes, then I do explain my own career path and jobs I know other people do. So, yeah.
I think as a math teacher, this was like so eye-opening for me because I was always so focused on the skills they need to learn really to get to the next math class, because it's like, oh yeah, you have to know how to solve the quadratic formula, or you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. And I never focused on like what skills they're learning, because most of our students aren't going to be math majors, right? They're not going on, and there's so many other skills that they're learning in my class that I never really put focus or emphasis on. You know, like, yeah, you're learning critical thinking, you're learning communication skills if I'm making you go up and speak, and those are maybe like the skills that were showing up more on the list that that employers wanted. Not new. I never saw like, can they use a quadratic formula on the skill list there? So, so I think this was really eye-opening for me. And there's, like, when we were talking about this with the whole math department on Wednesday, I'm talking about bringing people in and doing resume building workshops, which is something I would never think about in a math class. And then Angela like immediately texted me and she's like, yeah, we should do this in Math 105 and 106, you know, where we're teaching people to be teachers, or like they need to know what skills to put on their resumes. So
yeah, I think this notion that like our students, there's not going to be a lot of math majors, or there's not going to be a lot of fill-in-the-blank majors in your class. Well, this is kind of the goal here. Like, how can we put together a class with these other elements that will inspire them or light their interest in becoming a math major? Because now they see there are career pathways, there are job transferable skills. Same thing in letters. Everyone's like, oh, every student has to take these fundamental courses in the GE pattern. Why are we not opening the lens for them to see this is possible? There are lots of students who come in and they know exactly what they want to do, and that's great. And we might even change their mind, but there are a lot. And you've heard our students say, "I didn't know it. I want to change my life. I'm not sure what I want to do." There's so many career pathways, and I think as faculty, we get rooted in our discipline, and then we have been professors for so long, we don't even know what jobs exist out there for sociology majors. If one day MiraCosta makes me so sad, I'm gonna be like, what else can I do out there with my degree, But I'm not there at all. I love it here. Love it here. I might find a side hustle though, right? So this notion that like we can do things differently, and Zhenya Lindstrom gave that presentation on this database from San Diego County where we got to plug in our disciplines and see what the skills were being listed or were being named in the job descriptions, and it was so eye-opening to see your discipline explicitly tied to job descriptions and job applications, and what were the skills, and how could we take that language and put it in our courses, right? And make it very clear to our students, hey, when you're taking this course, here's what we offer you. And to bring in guest speakers. And Robin Allen is doing great work in the work-based learning arena to give us more resources for that. So this is for us an ask, a request, an inspire for us as faculty and department chairs and divisions to think about our learning outcomes and how can we reframe them in ways that now can meet accreditation, but also light the fire for our students, get them interested, get them knowing that this can lead to a job. And it doesn't have to be the job right now. It could be the job right now. It could be the job in the future that you want, and the circuitous pathways that we take. So we have a couple minutes. Is there any one in the audience who wants to comment? Yes, Layla.
I really encourage our faculty, when you get an email from the counselors and career center, when they come they ask you if it's okay to come to your class, please invite them to come to your class and have a 10 minutes presentation. It's just investment of time for 10 minutes for your student to hear the career pathways that they have in front of you. And I also encourage, I don't know if Zhenya is here, but she had an amazing presentation about career and what we can put in our syllabus, that what our students are learning in our classes. I wish Zhenya can just record herself and send that to all faculty to hear more, because what we can put in our syllabus, as my colleague Serena said, is beyond just solving the equations, and this is how we do, the math problems. We are teaching a lot in our classroom. We just have to use the language that we need and put it in the syllabus. Thank you.
Thank you, Layla. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? Yes.
Hi, this is Rick. I just wanted to thank the students for your candid and honest feedback, and I want to thank the faculty for being committed to meeting students where they are. I think, I'm old, I've been around for a long time, and I remember a guy who taught political science, and he said, my job is to lecture to that back wall, and it doesn't matter if anybody hears, listens, or learns. And we have a faculty that is committed to meeting students where they are and taking steps to do that. And we're hearing the students tell us what they need. And some people, my age, old people may say, oh, that's hand-holding, that's not okay. It's not. It's helping students over that hump, and it's giving them the confidence to be able to be successful in college while holding them accountable, while preparing them to go out there and be successful in the world. And my heart is filled right now. I am so thankful for everyone in this room and everyone virtually for everything that you're doing for our students at MiraCosta. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Is that B? Is that you? I want to plug in for service learning as well.
Of course. But first, I just want to, my name is B or Beatriz, pronouns she, hers, and ella. And I just want to tell our system-impacted students, our non-traditional students, our returning students, and our first-gen students up here telling your story, thank you. Thank you for sharing your journey with us. I think it empowers us to serve you the best way that we can. Gracias. And I heard some of you talk about your servingness to the community. Make sure that you document those hours through our office so that you can earn your certificate of volunteerism and the Presidential Volunteer Award, because you're doing a lot of good work. And I know it's, especially within our Black, brown communities, we don't like to be acknowledged for the great work that we do, but that's a piece of social capital to get that recorded and documented on your resume. And you talked about employability skills. Service learning is a great way to get you out into the community and really connect what you're learning about in the classroom with real lived experiences. Service learning falls under work-based learning and civic engagement, and it increases your cultural and social capital. So we're here to serve you. Gracias.
Thank you, B. All right. Well, we are hitting the mark of time. Thank you so much. You heard the thanks from a couple folks. I know everyone in this room and in the web space are so grateful for your vulnerability and giving of yourself so that we can learn from you. And we are making a commitment to you that we will continue to listen to all of our students and pull from them, but that we can be our authentic selves as well. So thank you, Sean and Curry and Serena and Michelle, for being up here with us. And so I guess it's time to end. Is there any other things we got to announce?
I just want to tell you
sorry,
that...
what? We're going to try to institutionalize this summer institute.
Yes, that's exactly. So this is just a very small snapshot of what we experienced in summer, June 23rd and 24th. We heard from more students, more faculty. We had time to chat with our faculty. And this was a great experience that we are hoping to institutionalize this. So next summer, around May, when you see Tao's email, inviting you to join the Faculty Institute, be early, because seats are limited.
And we hope to open it to staff as well.
Yes, we are opening it to everyone at MiraCosta College. So this will conclude our session today. Thank you so much for everyone who attended in person, who joined us virtually. So thank you so much. And I hope what we learned today be with you on Monday when we start our classes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.